Chaos. Chaos. The world is in turmoil, and strange things are happening. The news reports rapidly changing strange situations, with the announcer describing the situation while switching between scenes. An old man with strange powers walks the streets, causing witnesses to bleed from their 7 orifices and die on the spot. Eyeless children wander around seeking their eyes, causing those who see them to immediately lose their sight. Bloodthirsty dogs hunt humans, while a butcher dismembers his prey, and a beautiful corpse seduces men. The news report ends with a solemn message from the announcer: residents, please be aware of your surroundings. In case of danger, first protect yourself and then report the incident as soon as possible. After watching the news, Yisha sighs heavily and collapses onto the couch. As chaos descends and the strange phenomena continue, how can an ordinary person like him survive? He is a successful fitness trainer with a strong and fit body and has even learned some impressive combat techniques. However, in the face of the strange, these abilities are useless. After all, he will be facing demons and monsters, and no matter how skilled he is, he would only be a jumping grasshopper. His muscles and flesh would likely be considered a delicacy by the strange. Suddenly, a strange sound comes from the kitchen, causing Yisha's heart to skip a beat. He immediately tenses his muscles and slowly moves towards the kitchen, afraid of alerting any potential danger. The sound grows louder and louder, as if something is trying to emerge from the sewer. Yisha thinks for a moment and decides to run out of the door. Only an idiot would face the strange head-on. Running away is the best option. The strange in the kitchen seems to know Yisha's intentions and breaks through the door with a bang, chasing him down the stairs. Yisha lives on the 6th floor, and although he is physically fit, going down the stairs is dangerous. He dare not go too fast. The strange lets out a piercing scream that is extremely ear-piercing. Yisha does not dare to look back, enduring the pain in his ears, and continues to run down the stairs. Splash! The sound of claws entering flesh is heard, and Yisha suddenly feels a sharp pain in his back. He cannot stand steady and tumbles down the stairs. Holding his head tightly with both arms, Yisha rolls down the stairs, but he has no hesitation and immediately gets up to continue running down. It really hurts, his back is bleeding and his hands and legs are swollen from hitting the hard stairs. But Yisha cannot stop, because stopping means death. The strange has been appearing in public for 3 months, and no one has survived its pursuit. Running may not ensure his survival, but not running would mean certain death. Ah! The strange lets out an angry scream, as if Yisha has angered it as prey, and its speed in pursuit increases. It's really frightening. Yisha couldn't shake the bizarre image she caught a glimpse of when she fell, but she didn't stop moving. The creature looked like a skinny child with a withered body and wrinkled, frighteningly twisted skin. Its eyes glared with fury, and its gaping maw was full of sharp, jagged teeth. Its sharp nails were excellent weapons for hunting humans. She was almost out of the hallway when her head began to spin, and a tingling sensation spread from the wound on her back that the creature's claws had torn open. She had been poisoned. With all her strength, Yisha pushed open the door to the lobby on the 1st floor, but her body collapsed outside the entrance. The small creature screamed and pounced on her, its mouth dripping with blood as it bit into her neck. Though she was barely conscious, Yisha's survival instinct kicked in, and she used her arm to shield her vital organs. The creature's blood-soaked teeth sank into her arm instead, spraying blood everywhere. Aya! Despite the unbearable pain, Yisha's only thoughts were of her unwillingness to die. The creature devoured the chunk of meat from her arm and was about to kill her completely by biting her neck when the clouds that had obscured the moon suddenly dissipated, revealing the full moon's brilliant light. A beam of moonlight shone through the glass, illuminating Yisha's body as she lay there waiting to die. Even the creature felt that something was wrong as it lifted its head and looked up at the sky through the glass. Suddenly, a huge, furry hand grabbed the creature's neck, lifting it into the air. The creature struggled to break free, but its sharp claws were useless against the massive hand that held it tightly. Yisha, who had been lying on the ground waiting for death, had disappeared. In her place stood a terrifying werewolf with shining black fur, towering over the creature with massive biceps and wolf claws. The creature's green eyes glared viciously at the small creature. "It's my turn now, you damned little monster." The werewolf spoke in a hoarse, low voice, like the roar of a jungle beast. The werewolf's claws slowly squeezed the creature's neck, letting it experience the despair of approaching death. With the last squeeze of the werewolf's claws, the creature stopped struggling and fell limp, its head hanging lifelessly. In the bathroom on the 6th floor, Yisha looked at himself in the mirror with some distress. Although he had escaped the pursuit of the little demon, he had turned into a werewolf even more terrifying than the little demon, which could be considered a kind of weirdness. At least becoming a werewolf is a stroke of luck in misfortune. It gives me some self-defense capability in the face of weirdness. Yisha was naturally optimistic and easily satisfied, and he comforted himself. After experiencing weird pursuit and then transforming into a monster, not having a mental breakdown was already a good performance. Can I change back? Although being a werewolf gave him great strength and recovery ability, his bitten arm had just been torn apart by the little demon, but it had already returned to its original state in an instant. However, if he could not turn back into a human, he would have to stay away from the city and hide in the mountains, because he did not want to harm people. Change back, change back. Yisha was frantically trying to persuade himself with his willpower to change reality. However, his body remained motionless, and the terrifying werewolf still appeared in the mirror. It was late at night and all was quiet, so the terrifying pursuit just now had not been witnessed by anyone. Dragging his werewolf body, Yisha sat down on the sofa in frustration. The sofa sank and deformed slightly under the weight of the werewolf body, indicating how heavy it was. "I don't care anymore, I'll sleep for a while, I'm too tired." Although the werewolf body was full of strength, Yisha's mind was extremely tense and relaxed, and he was already exhausted. He found a comfortable position, leaned against the sofa, and closed his eyes. When the sun was high in the sky, the sunlight was shining brightly, as if the horrors of last night had never happened. Yisha woke up in a daze, and found that he had returned to his human form, which instantly made him sober. He looked at his strong hands, and jumped up from the sofa with joy. His body had returned to its original state, without any scars left. Bang! The cheap sofa that could not bear the weight finally collapsed. It had borne the extremely heavy werewolf all night long, and now it was doomed to end its miserable life after being bounced by Yisha's 150 pounds. Yisha did not care and ran back to the bathroom, checking his body in the mirror. "Since I can turn back into a human, can I turn back into a werewolf?" As expected, Yisha had a little plan in mind. However, it could also be understood that in a world full of weirdness, any straw for survival must be grasped. With a thought, Yisha felt his body starting to change. His body began to grow and become stronger, his hair grew, his clothes were torn apart once again, his hands turned into claws, and his handsome face instantly became terrifying, transforming into the form of a monster werewolf. Stretching his body after the transformation, Yisha felt the terrifying physical qualities and explosive power of the werewolf. Being a fitness and combat coach, he knew the techniques of releasing power and could quickly understand and master this sudden ability. With a thought, Yisha transformed back into human form. His clothes had been torn apart by last night's and just now's transformation, even his underwear had been torn into 3 pieces hanging on his body. Yisha couldn't help but laugh bitterly. He decided to take off his clothes and go into the bathroom to wash off the dirt on his body. The key to transformation should be the level of mental power. "I was too exhausted last night, so I couldn't transform back." Sitting in front of the computer, Yisha analyzed. He had to figure out his own cards and any potential strangeness that might appear. Moonlight should be the activation code for my transformation. As long as I input it once, I can switch my form at will. Entering the keyword werewolf on a website, Yisha began browsing to learn more about this mysterious creature. The website was established by humans after the appearance of strangeness, and it is global, mainly used to record strange occurrences to warn people to be careful and survive. In fact, 3 months after strangeness appeared, it had not yet affected all areas. There were not any search results for werewolves on this strange website, indicating that this kind of strange creature had not yet appeared in the sight of humans. Yisha thought for a while and began to browse other strange information. Although he was originally courageous, now that he had his cards, he was even more confident. While looking at strange events, he ate instant noodles. The bloody and terrifying pictures of strangeness made him feel hungrier. Ring ring. The phone rang, and Yisha suddenly remembered that he was supposed to go to work. After all, the social operations in Jiangyang City were basically normal, and if you had to work, you had to work. Capitalists were just the strange among humans. Hello, boss? Yisha answered the phone, feeling a bit embarrassed. Although he encountered strangeness, it was not appropriate to skip work without saying a word. Little Yi, are you expanding? You skipped work after becoming the fitness coach champion? A playful voice came from the other end of the phone, a beautiful and charming voice that made people feel a little tingling. It was Yisha's boss, Lu Yuling, a 27-year-old beautiful and charming boss, with a hot figure. No, I had a headache, rested for the morning, and I'll come to work in the afternoon. Then I'll forgive you. Remember to clock in when you come in the afternoon. Yisha rode her electric scooter onto the road, with the sun shining brightly and the heat intensifying. Although it was the peak of the noon rush hour, there weren't many cars on the road. Perhaps some residents were afraid of the strange occurrences and stayed at home. What's the point of hiding? Wasn't it me who suffered at home last night? Yisha sighed, understanding the residents' choices, all for self-protection. However, this strange world was too frightening, permeating everywhere, and any place could have the appearance of strangeness, making it impossible to guard against. Lost in thought, Yisha arrived at her workplace, parked her electric scooter, and took the elevator up to the building. After graduating from college, she couldn't find a job in her field and, due to her love for fitness, decided to submit her resume here. Surprisingly, she was hired. The gym was large in scale and highly specialized, with a competent team of coaches. It was a relatively formal place. Since the appearance of strangeness, some office workers didn't go to work, and staying at home was suffocating, so they came to the gym to exercise and relieve stress. Therefore, the gym's business was doing well, and Yisha's appearance and skill were good, naturally resulting in excellent performance. After punching in for work, Yisha walked into the gym, and a few colleagues who were teaching waved to greet her. Standing in front of the counter was a hot beauty, tall and slender, with tempting curves between her prominent front and back. She was also wearing a sports jacket and yoga pants, with curves in her legs and an impressive curve in her peach-shaped buttocks, which was quite pleasing to the eye. This was the gym's owner, Lu Yuling. Yisha was a bit shy, covering her face and wanting to go to the locker room. He didn't dare to see this beautiful boss. For some reason, this woman always liked to flirt with him. It's not that he didn't like beautiful women, but it was because Lu was too domineering, and he couldn't handle it. Hiding from me again? Will I eat you? The mature woman's voice sounded from behind, and Yisha awkwardly stopped her footsteps, adjusted her expression, and turned back with a smile. No, I just didn't come this morning, and I wanted to get to my post quickly. Oh, so conscientious, Lu Yuling walked over with a playful smile, staring at Yisha's eyes, clearly not believing her. Yisha looked at the dazzling beauty face and nodded guiltily. Come to my office. The boss spoke up, and the worker had no choice but to follow the lady boss to the office. As they walked, the worker, Yesha, couldn't help but sneak a glance at the boss, and his blood boiled. She was quite alluring. He struggled to suppress his unhealthy thoughts and realized that he had never felt this intense desire before. If he wasn't so rational, he might have acted on it. Is this a side effect of being a werewolf? It's so scary. Yesha forced his gaze up to the ceiling to avoid being tempted again. Little did he know, the boss, Liu Yu, thought he was just shy and found his reaction amusing. She had actually hired him in the first place because she had a bit of a crush on him. Once they arrived at the office, Liu Yu sat on the boss's chair and motioned for Yesha to sit. So, what's wrong with your body? Do you need to take sick leave? Liu Yu asked with genuine concern, not scolding Yesha for skipping work for the first time in a year. I'm feeling better now. I just caught a cold from the air conditioning. Yesha was surprised that he wasn't being reprimanded and even received some care from the boss. There have been more strange incidents in Jianyang City recently. Why don't you stay at the company instead of going home? Liu Yu suggested, and it wasn't a joke. Their gym was in a bustling commercial area across from the police station, which sounded safe. Thanks for your concern, boss, but where can I stay in the company? Yesha laughed it off, knowing firsthand that ordinary people couldn't handle supernatural beings. The police wouldn't be much help either. You can stay upstairs. I have a lot of vacant rooms in my apartment. Liu Yu smiled flirtatiously, teasing Yesha. Not only was she the gym's owner, but she also owned the entire top floor of the building. She was a gorgeous and wealthy woman. Yesha choked on his words, but regained his composure and stammered, "That's not a good idea." Ha ha ha. Liu Yu laughed so hard that her curves shook. She was amused by Yesha's shyness. He was such an innocent boy. Yesha's eyes widened as he gazed at her swaying, beautiful peaks. But he quickly looked away to avoid succumbing to his desires. Okay, enough joking. The internet company on this floor has shut down, and I've decided to convert it into employee dormitories. You can move in and save some money. The gym's floor had a former internet company that went bankrupt, likely due to the strange occurrences. Their employees had all quit. Okay. I'll think about it. Yesha didn't immediately accept the offer. He had a secret that he needed to consider before making any moves. Liu Yu wasn't pleased with his answer and was about to persuade him further when the receptionist outside started knocking frantically on the door. Boss, something's happened. Yunming Lu furrowed her eyebrows and quickly walked out, with Yisha following her. He felt a sense of unease in his heart. The gym was in chaos, with the door locked and a group of panicked customers shouting to be let out. The coaches tried their best to calm them down. Don't panic. Tell me, what happened? Yunming Lu, a longtime high-ranking female executive, spoke with a calm voice that immediately quieted the scene. In the weightlifting area not far away, 2 or 3 coaches stepped back with complicated expressions, revealing a terrible sight. A male customer lying on the bench press was pinned down by a heavy barbell and was already pale with no breath left in his body. This man had been crushed alive. Who was responsible for him? Yunming Lu asked sharply. This was an unforgivable mistake. Someone was supposed to be responsible for watching over and taking care of the person doing the bench press. Boss, I went to the bathroom, but I clearly told him to wait until I got back before continuing his workout. He just didn't listen. A middle-aged coach defended himself with a frightened expression. You. Yunming Lu was furious, but helpless. She wasn't a police officer, so how could she tell what was true or false? Boss, how about we look at the surveillance footage? Even if Li Gu wasn't there, someone else should have noticed, right? Why did a big guy like that suddenly die like this? Yisha reminded her, sensing that there was more to this situation. Yunming Lu nodded and turned to Xiao Lu at the front desk, who immediately retrieved and projected the surveillance footage onto the gym's large TV screen. Yisha watched the video carefully. In the footage, Li Gu did indeed speak with the customer before going to the bathroom. But the customer suddenly seemed to change, lying down on the bench press, grabbing the barbell and lifting it once before weakly letting go, allowing the barbell to fall on him. His face turned red and his eyes bulged, but he didn't even make a sound, dying within a few breaths. No one was in the weightlifting area during this time, and he wasn't found by Li Gu until several minutes after he had already died. This is strange. Yisha was shocked. This kind of death was undoubtedly caused by something strange. He had encountered one last night, and now another one today. It wasn't normal. Where there is strangeness, there must be something unusual about it. Recalling the slogan of the strange website, Yisha had a guess. He was now a half-strange, half-human being, so other strange would be automatically attracted to him. Did you call the police? Lu Yuning rubbed her sore temples. She had only come to the gym today to tease Yisha on a whim, but ended up caught in a strange situation. Yes, they said no one can leave the scene. They want to question us, replied front desk Xiao Lu, visibly trembling. There are so many people here. Today's fitness class is quite lively. Suddenly, a creepy voice came through the speakers, a man's voice, somewhat hoarse. Who's there? The gymgoers looked around in confusion, trying to find the source of the voice. Boss, there's no one at the front desk. Xiao Lu was so scared she was about to cry. Lu Yuning suddenly remembered that the broadcast equipment was at the front desk, used to find customers and play music. But now there was no one there, so who was speaking? Student Li Guofeng, I want you to do a set of standard sit-ups. The voice from the speaker suddenly gave an order. Who's playing games? Li Guofeng, the middle-aged coach from earlier, shouted, his fear from the student's death still fresh in his mind. Don't listen to him, he warned everyone. Li Gu, don't speak. Just do what he says, Yisha quickly advised him. This was getting weird. Disobeying might result in a horrifying punishment. Li Guofeng lay down on the floor and started doing sit-ups as ordered. Other coaches and customers stared at him, some frightened, realizing that something strange was happening. Well done. Let's give him a round of applause. The voice from the speaker was now pleased. But the rest of the gymgoers didn't follow the speaker's instructions and applaud. Applaud. The voice became extremely sharp and aggressive, causing everyone to instinctively cover their ears. However, it seemed to have no effect on Yisha, who led the applause. Lu Yuning also caught on and joined in. The sound of enthusiastic applause echoed in the gym, as if at a staff meeting, but the atmosphere was extremely tense, and everyone was scared. Stop. Everyone immediately stopped clapping, obeying the speaker's command. One student is not listening. He's trying to skip class. The voice from the speaker spoke slowly and calmly. So the coach's punishment for him is death. A young coach squeezed out of the crowd by the door. He looked terrified, his body as if being controlled, stiffly walking towards the center of the empty space. The lock won't open, I just want to run out. The coach's forehead was covered in sweat. He couldn't even turn his head, just staring at the wall and shouting. The gym's lock was an electronic one, and could be opened or closed with the push of a button. But now the coach said it wouldn't open, it seemed he was also under the control of something supernatural. No, I don't want to die. Please. The coach couldn't control his body and watched helplessly as his head was caught in the gap of a piece of fitness equipment. Bang! The scene was gruesome, and the coach's body immediately went limp, no longer making a sound. Bodily fluid slowly spread on the gym floor, shocking everyone's senses. Other people screamed in panic, witnessing death firsthand, which was so cruel that it was mentally shocking. Quiet. The broadcast roared in anger, with a long drawn-out ending that stunned everyone in the gym. Yesha's heart was heavy too. He had eaten with the coach who had just died a few times, and they had a good relationship, but he had no confidence in saving him because he couldn't locate the specific position of the machine. Wang Ming, now you will do a set of standard push-ups. The broadcast started calling names again, and the chosen person was a customer who walked out looking troubled and lay down on the floor. Not standard. Do it again. Not standard again. Do it again. Do it again. Wang Ming was a fitness novice who just wanted to relieve stress, but he had never been guided, so naturally, he wasn't qualified. Hands and feet are at the same height, and both arms are the same width as the shoulders. Tighten your abs, don't slump. Yesha spoke up to remind him, like a lifesaver, and Wang Ming immediately adjusted and barely passed. Done, but only SOSO. The eerie broadcast sounded a bit disdainful, but then suddenly became agitated. The coach is here, why is someone else still reminding him? Yesha's mind was certain, and he focused on him. Lu Yuning was a little worried as she watched him and grabbed his hand. She was actually trying to protect Yesha under the influence of the eerie broadcast? Yesha was touched when Lu Yuning's soft fingers grasped his, thinking about how much courage it took. So, the punishment I give you is, huh? The eerie broadcast was about to issue a terrible order but suddenly sounded confused. Yesha finally guessed that he wasn't affected by the eerie influence. Consider yourself lucky. The coach has forgiven you. As expected, the eerie broadcast gave up on the punishment but was still very stubborn. Others looked at Yesha with mixed expressions. They weren't stupid, the eerie broadcast was acting so strangely that it must have been because of Yesha. Lu Yuning felt relieved but noticed that her hand was tightly held by Yesha, and her heart warmed, calming down. Creepy broadcast keeps calling out people to do exercise, but Yesha noticed a problem. Although it tried hard to pretend to be a fitness coach, the tasks it assigned were all basic and not professional at all. So whenever someone couldn't do it, Yesha would give a few tips to help them get through it. Ignoring Yesha's interference, the creepy broadcast continued to tremble and become increasingly impatient, and it was about to lose control. Enough. I'm the coach. Shut up. The creepy broadcast was furious, shouting loudly and scaring everyone to cover their ears. Do you have a fitness coach qualification certificate? Yesha suddenly asked, asking a creepy creature if it had documents, which was absurd. The creepy broadcast suddenly fell silent, apparently admitting that it didn't have one. But I do. Yesha pointed to the qualification certificates of the coaching team on the equipment shelf, indicating that this fitness center was very credible. You are misleading exercisers without a certificate, and you are not qualified to teach them. Shut up. The creepy broadcast seemed to have hit a sore spot, screaming wildly, and everyone was deafened by the horrible noise. Those with weaker constitutions almost fainted. A fitness coach must demonstrate his physique to the trainees and guide them with standard teaching movements. You dare not show up. How can you be a coach? Yesha shouted angrily. He wanted to provoke the creepy creature's anger and even force it to appear. This was a very risky method, because when the creepy creature got angry, it could kill everyone present. This was a method of risking one's life. Humans couldn't predict the behavior of creepy creatures. It could make you exercise 1 second and make you die the next. Humans could never satisfy its obsession. Only by taking a gamble could there be a glimmer of hope. The creepy broadcast went crazy, screaming, and all the mirrors and glass in the fitness center were shattered by sound waves. Even the tempered glass door was directly blown open. Run! Run out! Yesha shouted loudly, pulling Lu Yuning while pushing a few people, alerting those who were crouching and covering their ears. Seeing that the door was open, both coaches and customers ran out. Luckily, the fitness center was spacious, so there was no stampede. Yesha saw that Xiaolu at the front desk was hit by the crowd and stumbling, so he went up and pulled her and 2 women down. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! The creepy broadcast was still raging and didn't care about the trainee's escape, constantly muttering Yesha's name. Kill! Yesha! Kill! Yesha! Kill! Yesha! Finally, Isha escaped from the terrifying gym and felt the warmth of the scorching sun. This time, he didn't mind the heat but felt grateful for it. Despite having a werewolf body, Isha's killing methods were unpredictable and varied. For example, the strange old man died instantly just by looking at him. Even a wolverine would be useless. Because when he resurrected and looked at him again, he died once more, as if he was stuck in a glitch. The commercial building was now surrounded by armed police, who were vigilant and ready. Although they were very close, they were unable to provide support in time because the gym on the floor below was covered in a strange black mist, preventing them from entering. Seeing people fleeing one after another, the police became even more cautious, and instead of immediately questioning them, they had them wait in a designated area first, mainly because they were afraid that the strange entity might follow them out. After all, this world is full of strangeness, and one must be careful about everything. Boss, we made it out alive. Seeing Lu Yuning lost in thought, staring blankly at her gym without saying a word, Isha comforted her, not knowing if the old lady was scared by the strangeness or worried about her gym being empty. "Thank you, Isha." Lu Yuning regained her composure and hugged the man next to her with excitement. She knew that everyone had been saved by Isha. Being embraced by the hot beauty, Isha dared not move, sniffing the fragrant sports perfume and feeling the heat of her body. He felt ashamed that his lustful desire had returned. "You." Just as Lu Yuning was about to speak, she felt a strange temperature and immediately understood the reason. However, she deliberately hugged him tighter, making the small man in her arms breathe more heavily. Don't hold me so tight." Isha struggled to suppress his werewolf desire and said with difficulty. "Humph, you little rascal. I'll let you go." Hearing Isha's voice trembling, Lu Yuning let go of him, and the beautiful face also blushed a little, scolding him playfully. Isha quickly turned around and frantically recalled the beauty of Feng Jia and Ruhua in his mind, suppressing his desires once again. The black mist outside the gym gradually dissipated, and the strange entity, disguised as a fitness coach, must have slipped away. The police formed a column and advanced into the building, with a strange masked person accompanying each team. They kept scanning the survivors with a metal detector-like device. "What are you doing?" "I just escaped from death." "Don't scan me." Some survivors with a bad temper were already unhappy about being gathered in this area, and now they were being treated like this. They couldn't help but speak out. "Shut up. We are saving your lives. Who knows if the strangeness has left something on you? If you don't want to die, then sit still." The black-cloaked people didn't tolerate them and replied back, but they made sense. The disgruntled survivors sat down obediently and did not cause any more trouble. Yesha was a bit nervous. He was a half-weirdo and didn't know if he would be detected during the scan. Should he run if that happens? Should he turn into a werewolf and hide in the deep mountains? There wasn't much time for Yesha to react before a black-cloaked person lifted the instrument and began scanning him. Luckily, the machine suddenly beeped and flashed red. It ran out of battery. The black-cloaked person frowned and muttered something, then went to exchange the machine and started scanning Lu Yuning, who was standing next to Yesha. "Phew, narrowly escaped." Yesha breathed a sigh of relief. It was better to keep his secret hidden. If his werewolf form was discovered, he would not be able to stay in human society anymore. After the scan, the survivors were taken onto ambulances one by one for treatment, while being asked about the relevant situation. A young policeman holding a notebook walked up to Yesha and greeted him. "You're Yesha, right? Thanks to you this time." He learned from other survivors that this strapping young man was brave and resourceful. He had angered the weird creatures, but instead led everyone to safety. "It's just that we were desperate to survive and took a risky path." Yesha was still quite modest, not being proud or complacent. "That's already amazing. No ordinary person has ever escaped from the pursuit of the weird creatures in Jianyang City before. You're the first one to lead so many people out." The young policeman looked admiringly at Yesha, not showing any falsehood. "Ordinary people? Aren't they ordinary?" Yesha tried to pry some information out of the black-clothed and masked people. "Of course not. They are members of the Weird Creature Elimination Bureau." The young policeman's tongue was quick, and he was caught saying something he shouldn't have. He covered his mouth and stopped speaking. "Weird Creature Elimination Bureau?" Yesha kept repeating this term in his mind. The literal meaning was an organization that eliminates weird creatures. It seemed that humans had found a way to deal with them. However, he also had a weird werewolf identity now, so he couldn't blindly trust the Weird Creature Elimination Bureau. If he was killed by them one day, he wouldn't be able to argue his case. "Don't go out and blabber, I've already violated the rules." The young policeman warned, but didn't seem to take it too seriously. "What's your name anyway? Let's be friends." Yisha smiled and reached out her hand in a friendly manner. "I'm Wang Yanjin, nice to meet you." Officer Wang was also very cheerful and easygoing, shaking Yisha's hand with a smile. The two established a preliminary acquaintance. Next, Wang Yanjin asked about the details of the gym and Yisha's specific escape plan. They were now working together with the Exorcism Bureau, and learning how to defeat the supernatural was a vital skill that needed to be recorded and studied. It could potentially save their colleagues' lives in the future. 2 bodies were carried out, and the gym was sealed off. This case had temporarily come to an end, as the Exorcism Bureau couldn't find any trace of the mysterious broadcast. The police sent the survivors to the hospital or back home, and Wang Yanjin also asked Yisha if she needed a ride. "I rode my electric bike here, so I'll just ride back." "Thanks, though." Yisha thanked Officer Wang, and they exchanged phone numbers. They both seemed to have a good impression of each other. "Bye." Wang Yanjin waved goodbye from inside the car and drove away. The area was now tightly sealed off, with police and Exorcism Bureau personnel guarding the scene to prevent anyone from entering or leaving. Lu Yunong looked at her commercial building with a heavy heart. Her assets had just plummeted. It was such a disaster. "Boss, where are you going? Can I give you a ride?" Yisha walked over, pushing her electric bike. "Nowhere to go, I guess I'll just sleep on the street." Lu Yunong's beautiful eyes showed helplessness. Her assets in Jiangyang City were all in this building. Unless she flew to another city, but her passport and ID were upstairs. All she had was her phone. "Boss, you can stay at a hotel," Yisha naively suggested. He had no intention of hitting on her, being a straight-laced guy. "I'm afraid, just experienced something supernatural. How can I dare to stay alone?" Lu Yunong looked at the handsome young man and couldn't help but flirt a little. "What should we do then?" Yisha thought hard. He couldn't just leave his boss all alone. "Unless there's a strong and brave man by my side, I can't feel at ease." Lu Yunong hinted very clearly, even the tough woman started to feel shy. Yisha may be straightforward, but he wasn't stupid. He understood the alluring boss's meaning immediately, and there was nothing to refuse. Adjusting his expression, he said, "Boss, let me invite you to my house." "Hee, how can I do this?" Although she said that, Lu Yuning couldn't wait to jump onto the back seat of the electric bike and hug Yisha's waist, leaning her whole body against the young man's back. Her pretty face was blushing, making her even more alluring. "It's so big. So soft." Yisha couldn't help but exclaim in his heart, twisting the throttle, and the electric bike slowly headed towards home. "Wow, it's so clean. I didn't expect that you, a big man, would live so neatly." Lu Yuning happily observed the room, without encountering any strange fear at all. She was really a bold woman, and her chest was pretty big. By now, it was already afternoon, almost time for dinner. Yisha opened his phone to order takeout. He used to cook for himself because of fitness reasons, but last night, that little ghost came out of the kitchen drain and made a mess, leaving him no choice but to order food. Speaking of that little ghost, after Yisha killed him, he turned into a black smoke and directly entered his werewolf body, seeming to have increased a bit of strength. However, at that time, Yisha was too nervous to notice. "What do you want to eat, boss?" "I'll order takeout." Yisha asked the beautiful boss, and because he didn't have much money, he chose a well-rated civilian restaurant. "What is this you're eating? Let me treat you." Lu Yuning leaned over to take a look, turned off the takeout app on Yisha's phone, and took out her own phone. She tapped a few times on the app, and Yisha looked up and saw that the app looked upscale, like a proprietary app for some high-end restaurant. "Boss, it's my treat." Yisha said some polite words, but he found that Lu Yuning was the one ordering the food while sitting very close to him on the same chair. They were in a slightly ambiguous state. Because before going to work today, Yisha had thrown the broken sofa into the trash can outside and temporarily used 2 armchairs as a replacement. "Boss, there are chairs over there." Yisha hinted crazily, and this hot female boss was still wearing her tight sports outfit. They were so close that he felt like a fire was burning inside him. "I think this is good, very comfortable." Lu Yuning pretended to be silly, didn't move, and even intentionally rubbed Yisha's arm with her peaks while continuing to order food. Yisha could only endure, he felt it could toughen his willpower. When dinner was finally served, Lu Yuning stood up lazily, stretched casually, and her hot body curves were displayed again in Yisha's eyes. The towering peaks and the perky peach buttocks were truly blood-boiling. I lost. Yisha shed tears inside. It's not that my willpower isn't strong. It's just that this demon is too beautiful. Seeing Yisha's appearance, Lu Yuning laughed out loud, truly an evil demon lady who enjoys playing with Yisha. During the time they waited for dinner to arrive, Yisha turned on the TV and found a light-hearted comedy movie. He himself was relaxed, mainly wanting Lu Yuning to get rid of her shadow. Silly man, why are you so gentle? Lu Yuning was moved in her heart. This sturdy and muscular little man was really kind to others in his small actions. This is too funny. Ha ha ha. Yisha laughed loudly. He was immersed in the movie, laughing so hard that he covered his stomach. Optimistic people are like this, they have a low sense of humor. Idiot. Lu Yuning smiled and scolded, also watching the movie. Boss, you can also exercise, why did you order so much food? It's all wasted if you eat it. Yisha looked at the luxurious and expensive dishes on the table. Each dish had a small portion, just enough for 2 people, but the variety was complete and diverse. Still thinking about exercising? After surviving a disaster, shouldn't we celebrate? Lu Yuning poked Yisha's forehead with her jade finger and persuaded him. Well, let's call it a celebration feast. For Yisha, exercising was already a habit, so he naturally considered it. Pop. The red wine bottle was uncorked, and a rich aroma filled the air. Lu Yuning arranged the tall glasses sent by the restaurant and poured the dark red wine into the glasses, creating a burst of bubbles. Cheers to our escape. Lu Yuning raised her glass high and used her eyes to signal Yisha to cooperate. Long live life. Yisha also raised his glass and clinked it with Lu Yuning. The two smiled at each other and began to enjoy the food. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, the two watched another movie and relaxed their minds. Yisha, you're quite handsome. Lu Yuning's pretty face was flushed, obviously a little drunk. She pouted like a little girl, waving her hands incessantly, trying to grab the leaf sand next to her. Thank you for the compliment, boss. In fact, Yisha was quite handsome, with well-defined features, and most importantly, his youthful and courageous aura made people take a second look. I really like you. Lu Yuning pounced on Yisha, her delicate body pressed against him, causing his nose to bleed. She was expressing her feelings while under the influence of alcohol. Well, I like myself too. Yisha was not gay, of course he liked beautiful women, and Lu Yuning was the most beautiful of them all. Her proactive approach had also created a good relationship between the two. But he was half eerie. Yisha didn't know if his body would cause harm to ordinary people, so he couldn't and didn't want to easily accept Lu Yuning's feelings. Of course, if he understood everything clearly, he would not hesitate. Yisha, are you a man? Lu Yuning was a little angry. She was so proactive, yet this guy was still cracking jokes. Am I not pretty enough? Am I poor? It's the first time in my 27 years that I've fallen for a man. Tell me, do you want me or not? Yes. Yisha had no choice. When a beautiful woman had reached this point, not agreeing would make him appear abnormal. But he quickly changed the subject, but not completely. Lu Yuning had just wanted to smile happily, but was immediately irritated by Yisha's words, furrowing her brow. Boss, I like you too. Yisha looked at Lu Yuning's beautiful eyes with a serious expression, but I have a secret that I can't tell you right now. And because of this secret, I can't be with you, because it may harm you. Lu Yuning was a little stunned. She didn't expect that Yisha would ignore her advances, because of this secret. Until I figure everything out, we can't be completely together. Will you wait for me? Yisha's tone was very serious. He didn't care about the age and social differences between them, as long as they got along well. Does this secret prevent you from hugging me? Lu Yuning raised an eyebrow and asked. No. I don't think so. Yisha replied hesitantly, his serious expression just a moment ago breaking. Then why not hug me? Lu Yuning opened her arms generously, waiting for the embrace of the little man. Yisha could only embrace the hot beauty, and the thrilling sensation overwhelmed him. I've been waiting for you for so many years. What's a little more time? Lu Yuning murmured, obviously agreeing with Yisha's idea. Thank you, boss. I'm still a little afraid, can we sleep together tonight? Lu Yuning curled up in Yisha's embrace, her former fiery demeanor now as cute as a kitten. If it's just sleeping, it's fine. Yisha nodded in agreement, he felt that tonight might be a bit difficult to endure. Fool. Yeshayuyu woke up and looked out the window. The weather was nice today with clear blue skies. He looked back at the bed where the beautiful Lu Laoban was sound asleep like a tired kitten, snuggled up against his chest. Yeshayuyu felt the tender and alluring sensation of the smooth jade in his arms and experienced a sense of peaceful contentment. He carefully extracted himself from the bed and got dressed. Sleeping together last night was quite difficult since he was held tightly by the gorgeous woman, and his hands could easily wander to the towering mountains. Luckily, he was someone with strong self-control, the modern version of Li Xiaowei. Otherwise, he would have just gone for it. That Lu Yuning intentionally tempted him and enjoyed watching his embarrassment. Yeshayuyu's movements while getting dressed woke up Lu Laoban, who sat up, rubbing her sleepy eyes. She was wearing a man's shirt, a size too big, that revealed glimpses of her beautiful figure. Yeshayo. Lu Laoban called out his name like a little girl, extending her arms for him to hug her. I'm scared, hold me. Yeshayuyu looked at the bright daylight and embraced her. Boss, it's broad daylight, and I'm by your side. What are you afraid of? I'm afraid that you'll disappear. Lu Laoban received a powerful embrace and giggled. I want to go buy some clothes, will you come with me? Lu Laoban asked. She only had the sportswear she wore out yesterday, and her other clothes were still in the sealed-off building. She couldn't just go out wearing Yeshayuyu's clothes. Sure, I'm still an employee, so I'll listen to my boss. Yeshayuyu nodded, agreeing to her request. Then, do you want to watch me change? Lu Laoban's voice was seductive, her mature tone was filled with flirtation. She slowly undid the buttons on her shirt, revealing a glimpse of her milky white skin. No, I really can't handle it. Yeshayuyu fled the room, running out of the bedroom. Lu Laoban laughed heartily, feeling very happy. This world is really chaotic. I want to quit. My parents told me that there's a monster in our hometown. A big locust tree has become a demon and is killing people everywhere. Wearing a security guard uniform, Lu Ming sighed and shared his thoughts with his colleague. What kind of monster? It's just spooky. His colleague, Wang Fengyang, corrected him and said, what's the use of quitting? Haven't you seen the news? Some people are being killed even while hiding at home. What can we do then? No matter what we do, it's a death sentence. How can we survive? Lu Ming threw up his hands in despair, appearing very helpless. Just live one day at a time. Whether it's spooky or not, you still need to eat. Earn some money, eat a full meal, and then think about it. Wang Fengyang comforted his colleague before turning back to watch the surveillance screen. There were security guards in the mall, responsible for monitoring and broadcasting, and their work was usually not too demanding. Knock knock knock. The door was knocked, and Wang Fengyang didn't even turn his head, just said, come in. Run, strange. Lu Ming, who was playing with his phone, unintentionally looked up, and his phone fell to the ground with a clang. He pointed at the door in fear, his fingers trembling, unable to complete a sentence, only making strange noises. He involuntarily moved backward, almost falling off the chair. Wang Fengyang, with his back to the door, was already sweating profusely, trembling all over, and his heart was beating violently. He dared not turn his head to look, afraid that he would die as soon as he turned around. Two dry hands like tree branches slowly rested on Wang Fengyang's shoulders, and a terrible voice sounded word by word, "Now, your task is to find Yi Sha." Who is Yi Sha? Wang Fengyang was still relatively brave, daring to have a conversation with the strange figure. Lu Ming next to him was already so scared that he was crying and trembling, losing control of his bodily functions, and his soul was almost gone. "You, don't ask. Only I can kill him." The strange figure screamed in anger, as if Yi Sha was its nemesis. A dry finger was fiercely inserted into Wang Fengyang's shoulder, and the intense pain spread to his brain. "I'll find him. I will help you find him." The desire to survive overwhelmed the pain, and Wang Fengyang shivered and agreed to the strange figure's request. He. Hearing this, the strange figure laughed, but the laughter was terrifying and piercing, with no intention of stopping, spreading extreme fear throughout the broadcast room. In the mall, Lu Yuning was holding Yi Sha's arm and shopping around, picking out clothes. After all, no one knew where the strange figure might appear, and wearing luxury clothes would not be good for escape. The mall's broadcast suddenly sounded, and the announcer's voice came through, "Please come to the third-floor broadcast room, Mr. Yi Sha. The staff found something of yours, please retrieve it." The broadcast was played 3 times, but Yi Sha squinted his eyes. He came here empty-handed, with only his electric scooter key, house key, and phone. How could he have lost anything? All 3 were still securely in his pocket. "What did you lose?" "Let's go get it." Lu Yuning didn't realize there was a problem and asked. "Don't ask for now. Let's run out first and talk later. If there's no problem, we can come back." "Okay." Although Lu Yuning didn't understand the situation, she trusted Yi Sha. Her own physical fitness was also good enough to keep up with Yi Sha's speed. "Oh." Yi Sha's gaze lifted and he was taken aback. The entrance to the mall seemed to have malfunctioned and was blocking the exit. Several employees were working hard to fix it. Everything in the mall looked normal, and the customers who couldn't leave had returned to continue shopping, chatting and laughing. Salespeople in the shops also enthusiastically greeted passers-by and promoted their products. But often, horror is hidden in calmness. Yi Sha felt that something was very wrong. He could vaguely sense danger. He had this feeling when he faced the eerie broadcast at the gym yesterday, and now it was happening again. "From now on, boss, you can't leave my side." Yi Sha spoke quickly and earnestly to Lu Yuning. Lu Yuning nodded seriously. She was not a person who ignored the situation and had already guessed what might happen. After all, they had just escaped from the eerie broadcast yesterday. "Let's try the other exits." Yi Sha led Lu Yuning to run towards the back door of the mall. However, they were both very smart and tried to conserve their energy to prevent any sudden situations from occurring. Sure enough, the back door was also blocked, and the iron shutter was tightly locked. Without hesitation, Yi Sha kicked the lock beside the shutter, making a loud noise in front of the passing crowds. The iron door remained intact. The surrounding tourists were all startled and looked at Yi Sha with a not-so-friendly expression, silently cursing him. "Don't worry about them, Yi Sha, let's think of another way." Lu Yuning comforted him, afraid that her little man would be provoked by the people passing by. "It's okay, boss, I don't mind." Yi Sha naturally held Lu Yuning's hand and walked towards the front entrance of the mall, but he slowed down his pace. He couldn't be in a hurry and had to think it through. "Yi Sha, why didn't you come to the broadcasting room?" Suddenly, the broadcast erupted with hysterical screaming, and the customers were all frightened and squatting on the ground, covering their ears with a look of terror. Some of the slightly braver ones began to run, but they were all blocked by the malfunctioning door. "Let us out! Let us out!" Several burly men yelled at the employees. The latter were also sweating profusely, looking anxious. "I can't fix it. I don't know what's wrong with it. You have the guts to come in front of me. You fake coach. Yisha heard the familiar voice and knew that the eerie broadcast from yesterday had come to him. He was also a bit angry and retorted. Ah, 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 ah. The ghostly howling on the broadcast was piercingly angry. Lu Yuning covered her ears and squatted beside Yisha, feeling dizzy and disoriented. If you don't come, I'll make you lose the most important thing. The eerie broadcast suddenly burst into a maniacal laughter. As the terrifying laughter echoed, the lights in the shopping mall instantly went out, and darkness enveloped everything. Upon hearing this, Yisha was taken aback, shouting for Lu Yuning while reaching out to grab her hand, only to grab nothing. The boss was just crouching beside him a moment ago, how could he not feel him now? This eerie ability was terrifyingly powerful, even people right next to him could be taken away in an instant. Yisha took a few deep breaths, trying to calm his wildly beating heart. He couldn't panic. If he wanted to rescue Lu Yuning, he had to stay calm. Why did the power go out? Turn on the lights. Quickly turn on the lights. The panicked tourists yelled and screamed, the darkness only intensifying their panic. They didn't care about the strangeness anymore, just screaming for the lights to be turned on. If you don't turn on the lights, how can I go? I can't see the way. Yisha shouted at the eerie voice, negotiating with it. Oh. The eerie broadcast responded, and the mall lights came back on again. The bright light made Yisha squint, but he didn't stop, rushing to the stairs and running up to the third floor. It's so noisy. This time, the eerie broadcast was targeting other customers, who were still shouting and yelling. As a man was about to enter the dressing room of a clothing store, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his chest and his body began to chill. He used all his last strength to look down, only to find a plastic hand had pierced his chest and blood was pouring out like a spring. He fell down dead immediately. This was a plastic model manipulated by the eerie force. Other mannequins in the shops began to step off their platforms, smashing the store windows and chasing after humans. Shark-like teeth grew out of their plastic heads, making a crunching sound as they bit down. The eerie slaughter was beginning. A fat man stumbled and fell to the ground while running away, and several child-sized plastic monsters immediately pounced on him, biting down with their bloody mouths and devouring him madly. An elderly man with white hair was knocked down and lost his cane, unable to move. He was also relieved of his heart by the tall plastic monsters and was now their delicious meal. Yisha heard the screams around him, and his breathing became more rapid. He was a werewolf, not Superman. He couldn't handle all of this. Rescuing Lu Yuning was the most important thing right now. Night Xia had already reached the second floor, but the escalator leading to the third floor was blocked by several plastic monsters. They fed on human flesh and were extremely brutal and terrifying. Just as Night Xia was about to find another way to the third floor, she moved her foot and the plastic monsters stopped eating and looked around alertly. Damn it! Without hesitation, Night Xia quickly walked into the nearby restroom. There were other surviving humans near the second floor, and she couldn't let them see her secret. She had to use her trump card. Every minute she delayed meant an increased danger to Lu Yuning's life. When she emerged again, Yesha had transformed into a fearsome werewolf. Letting out a low growl, she charged towards the plastic monsters at the elevator entrance. With just one encounter, the 3 or 4 plastic monsters, who looked terrifying, were torn to pieces by her wolf claws. Their bodies had not been reinforced, they were just ordinary plastic, with questionable hardness. Therefore, if survivors could gather the courage to fight the monsters together, not as many people would die. Yesha did not stop, using all 4 limbs, and, in just 2 or 3 breaths, she rushed to the third floor. Her strength was now extremely high and her speed was fast, like the most terrifying beast in the jungle. There were a group of survivors on the third floor trying to go down. They had banded together, resisting the attacks of the plastic monsters, and were still relatively safe. But suddenly a terrifying monster rushed up from downstairs, and with its glowing green eyes, they felt like they were going to be eaten alive. They were scared stiff and couldn't move. Yesha ignored them and ran deeper into the third floor, looking for the broadcasting room. The survivors finally breathed a sigh of relief, not expecting the scariest monster to not care about them and run away instead. "Let's go down quickly," a trembling man in the crowd spoke up, and the others nodded in agreement, supporting each other as they headed downstairs. Unfortunately, they did not know that downstairs was also hell. Yesha had good vision, possibly an added benefit from her transformation. She searched for the broadcasting room back and forth, while taking care of some plastic monsters along the way. Some survivors she saved stumbled up, first being strangely pursued, and then strangely rescued. This world was too terrifying. They couldn't predict life or death in the next second. "I'm here. What do you want?" Yesha shouted into the broadcasting horn. As he passed through a store, he turned back into a human, but his clothes were torn and he looked somewhat disheveled. "Hee hee hee. I want, hee hee, you dead." The eerie broadcast sounded mentally deranged, laughing randomly throughout its speech. "Go, pet number 1. The door of the broadcasting room was opened, and a strange creature rushed out, appearing as if 2 humans had been combined together into a monster. It had 4 human legs, like a stable base at the bottom of its body, and 4 human hands randomly distributed on its torso. Finally, there were 2 terrifying human heads connected together from front to back, both with bloodthirsty mouths, constantly roaring. It turned out that after security guards Wang Fengyang and Lu Ming were killed by the eerie broadcast, they were transformed into a terrible monster by being combined and mutated. Yesha was shocked by the sight, as such scenes of horror were particularly intimidating. However, the stitched-up monster didn't give him much time to think. With a burst of force from its 4 big thighs, it jumped towards him, and this guy was surprisingly agile. Yesha rolled on the ground and dodged the stitched-up monster's stampede, but the cement floor he had just been standing on was smashed into a big pit. He didn't dare to be careless, and instantly transformed into a werewolf. "Wawa wawa wawa wawa." Seeing this, the eerie broadcast laughed happily, obviously unaware that Yesha could turn into a werewolf. "You are also, hee hee hee, you are also, hee hee hee." Yesha couldn't be bothered with the madness of the eerie broadcast. He took the initiative and rushed up. With the added speed, his wolf claws were extremely sharp, and he immediately broke one of the stitched-up monster's legs. Having succeeded in one strike, Yesha ran in another direction, ready to disable the stitched-up monster's mobility first. The monster lost one of its legs and couldn't jump anymore, so it started to charge forward like a speeding car. With limbs poised, Yeshua, like a jungle wolf king, stared fiercely at the enemy, not missing a single move. When the moment was right, and the stitched-up monster charged forward, Yeshua shot past like a black arrow. In a flash, he was already in another direction, still clutching one of the monster's legs in his wolf claws. The monster swayed and stumbled. Having lost 2 legs, it was unable to support its own weight and lost balance, falling to the ground and unable to get up. Joshua seized the opportunity to catch up. With a leap, he pounced on the stitched monster's head. With a swipe of his paw, he tore off both of its heads, and black blood splattered everywhere. How could it be so weak? The chilling broadcast sounded confused, but quickly dismissed it with a laugh. "But it doesn't matter. Pet number 2, let's go." Yeshar felt a palpable sense of anxiety, as if something unacceptable was about to happen. A familiar figure emerged from behind the door of the broadcast room. She was still sporting her high ponytail and tight athletic wear, but her once alluring eyes were now shrouded in a gray-black shadow, devoid of any signs of life. A towering black mist enveloped Lu Yuning's body, exuding an overwhelming aura that made the stitched monster seem like a mere ant in comparison. Yeshar's nose tingled and tears streamed down his emerald wolf-like eyes. His heart felt as if someone was crushing it, making it difficult for him to catch his breath. "If I hadn't brought you with me, would you be safer?" Yeshar murmured to himself, unable to keep calm anymore. Just last night, they had promised each other, but today they were separated by life and death. Ah! Filled with sorrow, the werewolf let out a furious roar that shattered the glass of nearby stores. Muscles bulging, veins throbbing, and drool oozing from his terrifying wolf mouth, the werewolf was losing his sanity. He 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 he. The eerie voice of the broadcaster sounded happy, as if she had just found the most entertaining toy. Lost in his frenzy, the werewolf did not attack Liuning. Instead, he sniffed frantically at the surrounding scents, as if his remaining sanity was playing tricks on him. Liuning, who was still under control, attacked the werewolf fiercely with her black mist. Although the werewolf dodged and ran around, he refused to harm Liuning. He was hit and looked miserable, with his once soft and shiny fur now unkempt and dull. He kept avoiding and sniffing around, as if looking for something. Outside the mall, the police had cordoned off the building, which was engulfed in even denser black mist than yesterday's gym incident. Wang Yanjin looked at the building with a serious expression. The strange incidents in Jiangyang City were increasing. In just 2 days, there were 2 cases in their area. If things continued like this, they might end up like Jiangyin City. A black-clad masked man walked up behind him, carrying a long sword with a hint of aura. Wang Yanjin had just met him this morning. He was a high-ranking member of the Extermination Bureau who had come down from the front line in Jiangyin City for a break. Such a strong aura. The man with the sword looked up at the building and spoke leisurely. Wang Yanjin and his colleagues from the Extermination Bureau had worked together for a long time and knew that they referred to black mist as aura. They could roughly determine the level of danger based on the height and coverage of the aura. Captain Li, what do you think? Should we take action? Wang Yanjin's superior also came over and asked the sword-wielding man. I think it's necessary to take action. The aura is already so strong. If we let the strange phenomenon continue, it will grow and even harm the entire region. Li Qingfeng had a wry smile on his face. He had just come back from the front line in Jiangyin and was faced with another huge anomaly. He really had no choice but to work overtime. However, they were the Slayer Corps. They were the first line of defense for humanity against the anomalies. The anomalies never stopped coming, but they swore never to retreat. Wang Yanjin stared at the sword on Li Qingfeng's back, feeling envious. He also wanted to have the power to protect the people. Unfortunately, he was just an ordinary police officer, and in the current situation, he could only do some auxiliary work. However, he also knew that being a slayer wasn't easy. It was said that slayers were also ordinary people before. They came across some objects infected by the anomalies by chance, and if they could subdue these objects, they gained the power to fight against the anomalies. Of course, the process of subduing these objects was very dangerous. If they weren't careful, they could become slaves to these objects. The sword on Li Qingfeng's back was one of these objects. The Slayer Bureau had a unified term for these objects: anomalous weapons. So, only anomalies and anomalous weapons could kill anomalies. Except for large-scale weapons of mass destruction, any small weapons were ineffective against the anomalies. The sword on his back began to tremble, and Li Qingfeng knew that it was hungry. This sword was called General Qilian and was found in the tomb of an ancient general. Li Qingfeng was still a new member of the National Archaeological Team at that time and followed his teacher into the tomb for investigation. As a result, an anomaly with the appearance of a general appeared and killed a lot of people. Almost the entire archaeological team was wiped out. In order to save his teacher, Li Qingfeng picked up a sword near the coffin and foolishly stabbed the general anomaly. He didn't expect to actually kill it. Since then, Li Qingfeng has joined the Slayer Bureau and has gradually become stronger. Because anomalous weapons loved the scent of anomalies, the more they killed, the stronger they became. This is the most confusing part. Anomalous weapons are formed from the infection of anomalies, but they love to kill them. Perhaps anomalies are something that is not allowed by heaven, so there must be natural enemies that can kill them around. As the saying goes, where snakes are found, there must be antidotes nearby. Comrades, today's operation is very dangerous and we may die. Li Qingfeng stood in the center of the crowd and loudly declared to the slayers and police officers, but we must move forward, protect the people, and have no way out. Let's go. Yes, everyone present responded loudly. This was the declaration of the fearless, and also the anthem of humanity facing anomalies. The action team cautiously advanced towards the building, with a configuration of 4 police officers for each slayer responsible for rescuing survivors while the slayers fought against the anomalies. Leading the way was Li Chingfeng, who tightly gripped his Qi Lian general in hand. He exerted a powerful strike against the strange aura at the entrance, creating a gap and revealing the damaged mall door. Break down the door. At Li Qingfeng's command, a burly team member stepped forward. He was dressed in black with a mask and wore a purple boxing glove on his right hand, which appeared somewhat comical. However, no one in the action team laughed, because the boxing glove was an anomaly that could greatly enhance one's strength. The burly man built up his strength and punched with great force. The mall door was directly knocked off its hinges, emitting a strong smell of blood. The action team furrowed their brows and donned their prepared gas masks as they entered. As soon as they entered, they were greeted with blood stains covering the floor and walls, extremely gruesome. Severed limbs and broken bones were scattered everywhere. It was like hell on earth. Several young police officers couldn't suppress their nausea and took off their gas masks, vomiting uncontrollably. The noise attracted plastic monsters gnawing on corpses not far away, and upon seeing that more food had arrived, they howled and charged over. Li Qingfeng effortlessly killed 2 plastic monsters that were at the forefront before issuing orders for his team to clear the monsters. The police officers, protected by the slayers, also began searching for survivors. The terrifying werewolf had already been beaten to the point of being on the brink of death, huddled in a corner, unable to stop coughing up blood. Lu Yuning slowly approached, with black mist around her forming into a sharp blade in her hand, clearly intending to deliver a fatal blow. Hee hee hee. This time the sound didn't come from the broadcast but from the broadcasting room itself. A thin and creepy man with a big head, disproportionately long arms dragging on the ground, and pitifully short legs walked out, laughing strangely. He looked very strange, with a thin body, a large head, arms that were extremely long and reached the ground, and legs that were pitifully short, like a child's. He wore a mini microphone on his mouth, with no teeth, and a creepy smile on his face, making ordinary people shudder at the sight. Hee hee hee. I want to eat him, smells so good, hee hee hee. The creepy man pointed his withered fingers at the werewolf and began jumping around in front of it, looking very excited. Lu Yuning slowly lifted the black mist blade in her hand, preparing to stab it into the werewolf's chest. At this critical moment, the wolfman's green, lifeless eyes flashed with a gleam of light. Yisha reacted quickly, ducking just in time to avoid the black mist blade stabbing into the wall. He kicked off the wall with his hind legs, charged forward, and firmly grasped the strange man's neck with one wolf claw. With his other claw, he deftly removed the man's limbs and took away the microphone from his mouth. The strange man did not bleed after his limbs were removed, but his body began to shake violently as soon as the microphone was removed from his mouth. Is this his lifeblood? Yisha guessed, unsure. Don't, give me back the microphone, the strange man screamed frantically, his limbless body shaking violently. Who are you coming out? Yisha asked, suspicious. Perhaps there was something even more terrifying hiding inside this guy's body that needed the microphone to keep it sealed? But Yisha couldn't be sure if this was a trap to trick him into returning the man's lifeblood. Suddenly, a blade struck from behind him. Liu Yuning, still under the control of the strange man, attacked Yisha. Yisha quickly dodged, but he was holding the microphone and the strange man tightly in his wolf claws. Are you looking to die? Make her stop, the wolfman growled, squeezing the strange man's neck tightly. Give me back, the strange man cried out, struggling frantically and constantly glancing at his beloved microphone. The wolfman's body quickly recovered, with the flesh mending itself and rejoining together after being shattered by the black mist, with regenerative powers comparable to Wolverine's. He had indeed lost his mind for a moment, with his only thought being to find the source of this strange broadcast and go down with it. So the insane wolfman did not attack Liu Yuning, but instead sniffed madly, trying to catch the scent of the hiding place of this strange broadcast. However, his plan was unsuccessful, and he was nearly beaten to death. His will returned, and he decided to play along, pretending to be on the verge of death to lure out the strange man. His wolfman body had strong recovery abilities, and he was not so easily killed. "Give it back to me, I'm coming out, I'm coming out." After waiting for a few seconds for his body to recover, the strange man's body began to shake even more violently, muttering strange words in his mouth. "Who is coming out? Who?" Yisha asked quickly. Perhaps there was something even more terrifying hiding inside this guy's body that needed the microphone to keep it sealed? But Yisha couldn't be sure if this was a trap to trick him into returning the man's lifeblood. I'm coming out." As soon as the strange man's voice fell, his body began to rapidly expand, and Yeshua could no longer hold on to him, and could only release his wolf claws and quickly retreat. A black mist surged out from the body of Lu Yuning not far away and immediately drilled into the body of the strange man undergoing the transformation. Yeshua watched as the unconscious Lu Yuning staggered and quickly rushed up to embrace his boss. "You're still alive." Hearing Lu Yuning's somewhat stable breathing, Yeshua's heart, which had been as good as dead, was once again filled with life, and he was suddenly filled with the will to survive. He must live and bring Lu Yuning with him. After sending the unconscious Lu Yuning to a safe place, Yeshua confronted the transforming strange man, poised for a fight. The werewolf was determined to take down this damn strangeness. The transformation of the strange man finally ended, and all the surrounding black mist was sucked into its body. Reappearing before Yeshua's eyes was a 3-meter-tall muscular humanoid monster, jet black in color, with bulging muscles, and fists that were probably as large as park boulders, extremely terrifying. Yeshua, as a werewolf, was only about 2.5 meters tall, shorter than this guy, and didn't have such terrifying muscles. "Kill Yeshua!" The giant monster roared and charged like a tank, and a fist smashed down fiercely. Yeshua quickly dodged, but the next second, a rushing wind came from above his head, and the monster's other fist followed and smashed down. In the end, Yeshua's reaction was a bit slow, and even though he tried to dodge, he was still hit in the waist, and his whole body flew out, spitting out some blood from his wolf's mouth. This giant's strength was terrifying. As his injuries began to slowly recover, the blow had shaken Yeshua's internal organs. Luckily, he was able to withstand it as a werewolf, otherwise he would have been flattened in his human form. As the giant charged forward, it swung its fists, smashing everything around it, shattering the ceramic tiles on the floor into pits. Yeshua grabbed a nearby fire extinguisher, pierced the metal bottle with his wolf claws, and threw it directly at the giant monster. A white foam instantly filled the area around the giant, making it so irritated that it swung its fists, trying to clear the foam. This was Yeshua's smoke bomb. And Yeshua had long since disappeared from the giant's sight, hiding himself in an instant. Just as the giant finally broke free from the white foam, it felt a weight on its back. Yeshua had arrived. His wolf claws fiercely slashed across the giant's head, leaving 5 deep wounds on its skull, and countless black blood gushed out, splattering the giant's face. Having succeeded in his attack, Yeshua didn't get greedy and immediately retreated. As expected, he evaded the giant's wild fist. Another sneak attack, Yeshua charged head-on towards the giant, making loud footsteps and deliberately luring the giant into punching. But the moment he got close to the giant, he slid down with a low sweep and aimed at the ground, using his momentum to slide towards the giant's legs. One hit was successful, and Yeshua immediately retreated, successfully avoiding the giant's random punches. Another sneak attack, Yeshua charged at the giant from the front, intentionally luring the giant to punch. But as he approached the giant, he slid low to the ground, went under the giant's crotch, and tore at it with his wolf claws. Now the giant was bleeding profusely from both the top and bottom, in a very miserable state. However, being a supernatural creature, it didn't care about these injuries, it just cried out in pain and charged at Yeshua again like a tank. Of course, Yeshua couldn't confront it head-on, so he could only lure the giant to hit the wall and deliberately dodge at the last moment, causing the giant monster to collapse several walls in a row, and its head was a bit dented. Yasha wanted to start his own sneak attack again, and take advantage of the moment when the giant was covering its head in pain to strike. But just as he was about to step forward, he felt that dangerous warning sensation again, and forcefully stopped himself from acting. The giant, who had been covering its head, suddenly swung its fist fiercely, but only hit the air, which made it even angrier. It turned out that it had also set a trap. Yasha then realized that he could actually foresee some dangerous situations. Perhaps it was the instinct of the werewolf beast. The enraged giant monster ran while raising its fists, crazily smashing the ground, as if it wanted to crush the ground and reduce Yasha's space for sneaking and dodging. Yasha couldn't be careless, nor did he have the ability to stop the raging monster, so he could only pick up Lu Yuning and escape elsewhere. Of course, the giant monster wouldn't let Yasha go, and immediately chased after him. However, every time it took a step, the entire third floor trembled. Its power was truly terrifying. Not good. Upon hearing the terrible sound coming from the mall, Li Qingfeng guessed it was the strange creature. He had to rush up with his Chilean general sword. He didn't let his teammates follow him because their strength was not enough, and going up could mean sending them to their deaths. Not on the second floor. It's still up there. When Li Qingfeng arrived on the second floor, a group of plastic monsters rushed over to block his way. The Chilean general's sword in his hand swiftly swung. Its sword flower was extremely beautiful. The plastic monsters couldn't withstand even a single round of attacks and were quickly chopped into pieces. He quickly climbed to the third floor, and the scene before him made Li Qingfeng's heart sink. This strange creature was probably even more terrifying than he had anticipated. Multiple cement walls were knocked down, and the ground was full of big craters and terrifying footprints and fist prints, revealing a sinister and terrifying power. Li Qingfeng chased after the strange creature, but he was cautious and constantly looked around to avoid being ambushed. When he reached the end of the passage, he saw a staircase that had been broken and destroyed, leading up to higher levels of the mall. Could the creature have gone up to the roof on the fourth floor? Black energy surged from General Chilean's sword, lifting its owner and slamming him into the broken staircase above. Li Qingfeng rushed forward, crossing through the damaged rooftop entrance and onto the roof. What he saw there surprised him: two creatures of equal power, both staring fiercely at each other as if they were mortal enemies. One was an enormous and terrifying giant, while the other was a ferocious and monstrous werewolf. They were poised to strike at any moment, their hostility palpable. Li Qingfeng quickly retreated, not daring to make a sound. As a seasoned slayer of strange creatures, he had encountered countless creatures, but he had never witnessed two of them fighting each other. This was truly a rare occurrence. The two creatures roared in unison, breaking the momentary standoff and launching into a frenzied battle. The werewolf's claws drew blood, but its agile form evaded any counterattacks from the giant. For some reason, Li Qingfeng felt that something was off. The werewolf's fighting style seemed strangely human-like, unlike the typical strategy of strange creatures that attacked relentlessly despite injury, even if it meant taking slayers down with them. This werewolf was incredibly agile and careful, avoiding any injuries at all costs. Furthermore, some of the werewolf's movements hinted that it had boxing skills. Meanwhile, the giant monster on the other side fought purely on instinct, relying on brute force to attack. Like a seasoned wolf in the jungle, Yisha moved swiftly and attacked the giant monster's weak points, harassing it non-stop. The giant monster was too slow to catch Yisha, and could only rage helplessly, flailing its arms in frustration. Hiss! A sharp claw tore through flesh, as Yisha ripped off a large piece of flesh from the giant monster's leg. The monster screamed in pain and tried to stomp on Yisha, but it missed and only lost another chunk of flesh. Yisha wanted to limit the giant monster's mobility, so she focused her attacks on its legs. Whenever she succeeded, she quickly retreated, changing positions and launching another sneak attack from a different angle. The monster couldn't even touch her. The giant monster was swaying, and its thighs were unable to support its massive weight due to the severe injuries it had sustained. Yasha seized the opportunity and quickly ran towards the back of the giant monster, flying out a kick and brutally hitting its back with his hind paw. The force broke the giant monster's balance, causing it to fall face down with a loud crash. As the giant fell, the werewolf pounced. The wolf claws wildly tore at the flesh and blood on the back of the giant, and the wolf's mouth fiercely bit into the monster's head. Yasha obviously hated this strange monster and forgot that he was still a human inside, tearing and biting like a beast. The giant monster screamed in pain, struggling to get up, but it could not shake off Yasha, who clung to it like a malignant tumor on its back. It could only clumsily fall back, trying to use its own weight to crush the werewolf. The werewolf reacted quickly and, in the instant when the giant tilted backward, spun around the monster's waist and ran to its front. The wolf claws were not idle, fiercely stabbing into the giant monster's eyes, causing black blood to spurt out and making it lose its sight. The giant screamed in pain, but its towering body had fallen to the ground and could not stand up for a while. Yasha's terrifying wolf mouth gnawed fiercely on the monster's arm, and with its powerful biting force and sharp wolf teeth, it tore the flesh and blood of the arm to reveal the bare white bones. The giant, lying on the ground, howled in pain, and the other fist hit hard, trying to drive away the werewolf that was tearing at it. Yasha had an idea and quickly spat out the arm from its mouth. Instead, it lifted it up with its paws to resist the other fist's attack. Roar! The giant let out a loud, piercing scream, and its terrifying roar even spread to the lower floor of the shopping mall. It punched its own arm off with its tremendous force. Yasha, who was pushed back several meters by the force, slowly walked forward. He dragged the terrible heavy fist arm in his wolf claws, and black blood splattered all over the ground. Die! Yasha roared in anger, raising the heavy fist arm in his claws and fiercely slamming it onto the monster's head like a hammer. Bang! With just the first blow, the giant's head caved in, and black blood gradually spread onto the ground. The tall body, which had tried to get up, fell again. Yasha didn't stop, he went insane and wielded the giant's heavy fist, ruthlessly smashing it again and again. The giant's body was smashed beyond recognition, with pieces of flesh and bone scattered all over the place. The uneasy sense of danger finally disappeared, and Yasha gasped for breath, tossing away the heavy fist arm that he had used. The body of the giant that had already died began to slowly sublime, turning into black mist and automatically entering the werewolf body of Yasha. Yasha observed his body with some concern, not knowing what this black mist was. But the surging power coming from his body told him that this was loot. The werewolf's claws slowly swelled and enlarged, with a strong visual impact. His muscles became fuller and more ferocious, like another evolution. Recalling the situation when he killed the little demon, Yasha had a guess that he seemed to be able to absorb the power of the dead strange. I need to check on the occult website when I get back. After taking care of the troublesome strange, Yasha relaxed. He was ready to take Lu Yuning home and check if there was anything wrong with her body. Just as he took a step, Yasha felt something was wrong. His senses were extremely sensitive now, and even on a windy rooftop, he could smell a strange human scent nearby. It was nearby. Yasha's wolf eyes narrowed, but he quietly walked towards where Lu Yuning was hiding. Li Chingfeng, hiding next to a pile of rooftop debris, dared not even breathe heavily. He couldn't beat this terrifying werewolf. After all, General Qilian was his main combat force, and Li Qingfeng's body was the same as that of an ordinary person. He would be killed instantly by the fierce werewolf with a single grab or bite. I need to get out of here first, inform the others to retreat, and then call on the Bureau to send in a large force to surround and suppress. Li Qingfeng already had a plan in his mind. The slayers were brave and fearless, but going to their deaths foolishly was meaningless. As soon as he took a step, a terrifying shadow appeared on the ground in front of him. It came silently. Human, don't move. Yasha's voice was low and hoarse, sounding terrifying. Li Qingfeng, who was frightened out of his wits, was originally planning to draw his sword, but after this warning, he didn't dare to move again. After all, this strange werewolf could kill him in an instant. Are you a slayer? Yesha's question made Li Chingfeng feel a bit embarrassed. He was facing a terrifying strange now. How was he supposed to answer this question? Yes, kill me or cut me up if you want, I will not yield. Li Chingfeng nodded, looking righteous and resolute. Yesha muttered to himself, wondering if this man was stupid. He only asked to confirm his identity. This man was dressed in black, wearing a standard mask. What other identity could he have? Let everyone downstairs evacuate. The strange here has been killed by me, and it is no longer a threat. Yesha's words made Li Chingfeng shiver. What was this joke? Now you, this werewolf, are the biggest threat. Swallowing hard, Li Chingfeng said firmly, you are wrong. Even if the entire bureau is wiped out today, they will not allow you to roam free. You are wrong. I have no interest in weak humans. Hunting strange is my only purpose. Yes, Hale grinned, but now he was in werewolf form, and his smile was more terrifying, like that of a demon from hell. Li Chingfeng was shocked by the demon's smile, his face turned pale, wanting to speak, but not knowing what to say. He couldn't just trust a strange creature's words. Unite all the strengths that can be united to defeat the enemy. Isn't that right? We all have a common enemy, which is the strange. Yes, Hale said, trying to persuade Li Chingfeng. He didn't need to conflict with the Bureau of Exorcism right away, and having an initial understanding between them was not a bad thing. Are you telling the truth? Are you sure you won't harm anyone? Li Chingfeng was indeed moved by Yishael's words of uniting all strengths. After all, he had never seen such a highly intelligent strange creature. Not only did it have strong language skills, but it also reasoned with him. The strange creatures he had encountered before mostly just giggled and made strange noises, with no consciousness, let alone conversations. Of course, I have no reason to lie to you, after all, I can take you out with a single claw. Yishael's words contained a hint of threat. He knew that in the exchange with the Bureau of Exorcism, he must have the strength to deter them. Okay. I'll trust you. After a fierce mental struggle, Li Chingfeng nodded in agreement. After all, if this werewolf became angry, there would be no one in this area who could stop it. Let everyone outside retreat. After I leave, you can come in and do what you need to do. Yes, Hale made a reasonable request, which was not unreasonable. Okay. Li Chingfeng agreed and took out his communicator, starting to arrange for the guards downstairs to start the retreat. Hearing the sound of cars coming and going downstairs, Yes, Hale asked curiously, what did you say to them? They're so obedient? Li Chingfeng answered helplessly, I said there's still some danger in the building. To prevent it from affecting them, I asked them to retreat first. Ha ha ha, then you're in cahoots with the strange, you've already boarded the thief's ship. Yes, Hale laughed heartily, but the wolfman's hoarse voice was very harsh when laughing. If you betray me, I'll tell other humans about you. Damn it. Li Chingfeng was furious, he had fallen into the strange trap. You leave too. Yes, Hale continued to give orders, not wanting Li Chingfeng to know about the existence of Lu Yuning. Otherwise, by following the trail, the Bureau of Exorcism would be able to find out about his human identity in one go. Helpless, Li Chingfeng turned and walked down the rooftop. The Tianhua shopping mall incident was extremely serious, with only a few survivors out of the citizens who were inside at the time. Most of the rescued survivors were also mentally traumatized. The head of the Jiangyang division of the Special Supernatural Execution Bureau spoke with a heavy tone, almost a week after the shopping mall incident. They had tallied up the horrifying casualty figures. Less than 30 people had survived the entire ordeal. The people in charge of counting the numbers inside the mall had to be swapped out repeatedly due to the immense psychological toll. The stench of blood from the mall, caused by the mysterious black fog, lingered and caused the surrounding residents and shop owners to flee. That bustling area had become a ghost town. Chingfeng, you were the team leader at the time, can you summarize what happened for us? The head of the division sighed and called out Li Chingfeng's name. Li Chingfeng looked at the other colleagues in the meeting room and stood up. I went into the mall and followed the sound of a loud noise up to the 3rd floor, where I found terrible footprints and fist marks. I followed them all the way to the rooftop. He recounted everything he had seen and his conversation with the mysterious werewolf, causing the entire meeting room to erupt in chaos and confusion. Li Chingfeng, not only did you neglect your duty, you betrayed humanity. Shameful and despicable. How could the Special Supernatural Execution Bureau have someone like you, who colludes with the supernatural? Several irate Supernatural Execution Bureau members pounded on the table and hurled insults at Li Chingfeng. They all shared a deep hatred for the supernatural and could not tolerate any action that could be seen as colluding with them. Li Chingfeng remained silent and took on the brunt of the anger and accusations. He understood the attitude of the others, but he also held firm in his beliefs. Silence. The head of the division, Zhang Zhong, spoke calmly, and it was clear he had known about the incident for a while. After the incident that day, Li Chingfeng had met with him secretly for an hour. The emotional Supernatural Execution Bureau members had no choice but to sit down, glaring at Li Chingfeng in disgust. Don't forget, the weapons you wield to fight the supernatural are also products of the supernatural, Zhang Zhong said sternly. He had considerable influence in the division. We are weak and the supernatural is ubiquitous. If we don't find a way to overcome them, Jiangyang will become another human hell like Jiangyin. Director, how can we trust the supernatural? They are demons that massacre humans. A member of the Supernatural Execution Bureau asked incredulously. I didn't believe it at first, but among the survivors we rescued, several said that they were saved by the werewolf. Zhang Zhong sighed and surveyed the comrades in the meeting room. Chungfeng told me that the werewolf was highly intelligent, had no interest in harming humans, and had a clear objective: it may need to consume the supernatural to grow itself. Doesn't that mean we're raising a tiger? Another female Supernatural Execution Bureau member immediately realized the consequences. What do we do when it grows into a terrifying creature? Indeed, I have also anticipated this outcome. Zhang Zhong nodded, but then changed the topic. That's why I reported it to headquarters, and the High Command believes that we should form a special project team. On the one hand, we need to establish contact with the mysterious werewolf, and on the other hand, we must monitor its actions and be prepared to eliminate it if necessary. The people in the conference room became serious and attentive. They knew that the organization's mission was about to begin. I hereby announce that the Special Task Force is now established. Zhang Zhong looked at Li Chingfeng and said, Chingfeng, I appoint you as the deputy team leader. You will be responsible for communicating with the mysterious werewolf, as well as arranging all the necessary resources and manpower for the operation. Understood. Li Chingfeng nodded. He had anticipated his responsibilities ever since he chose to reveal the truth. Zhang Zhong appointed several other slayers to various positions in the team, but had not yet named the team leader. As others in the room became increasingly puzzled, Zhang Zhong explained, the headquarters will send specially trained slayers to guide and provide combat support. They will serve as the team leaders. Yes. Everyone in the room responded in agreement. They had no objections, as the headquarters slayers were all highly skilled, and the mission was more likely to succeed under their leadership. Operation Codename, Captive Wolf. Dismissed. After Zhang Zhong finished his announcement, he picked up the documents and left the conference room. Other slayers gradually got up and left as well, but some still stared at Li Chingfeng with disdain. They would follow any task assigned by the organization, but that didn't mean they had to like it. Li Chingfeng sat in his chair with no expression, but his hand trembled unnaturally under the table. Clearly, his emotions were unstable. After all, everyone had feelings, and being ostracized by his colleagues made him uneasy. Chingfeng, you're a brave child, you must live on. Li Chingfeng recalled his teacher's words before his death, and couldn't help but shed tears. His tears fell heavily onto the conference table, soaking his clothes. Although he happened to slay the mysterious creature in the ancient tomb, he was unable to save his teacher, who died inside the tomb. Slayer of the weird, returning to the heavens without regrets, even if I face certain death. Li Chingfeng wiped away his tears and regained his determination. Yesha was browsing through creepy information on his computer when a pretty hand holding a half-eaten apple reached out to him, urging him to take a bite. After returning home that day, Lu Yuning slept for a few more hours, clutching her head as she slowly regained consciousness. She felt no discomfort, but her head was heavy and painful, as if she hadn't slept for days. Yesha had taken her to the hospital for a checkup, but there was nothing unusual. As for her abduction by the creepy entity, Lu Yuning was completely unaware. She only remembered covering her ears and then losing consciousness, with no memory of what happened afterwards. Yesha was happy to see her in this state, without the horrible and painful memories. He was now extra gentle with her, and their relationship became even closer, almost like a live-in couple. While staring at the terrifying and creepy images on the eerie website, Lu Yuning was not scared at all, happily crunching on her apple. Her courage had grown since Yesha had brought her along, and she even found the creepiness somewhat appetizing. Yesha recalled all the actions and words of the creepy broadcast, feeling something was off. The guy had pretended to be a fitness coach one moment, and then went on to harm people at the mall radio station, acting like a lunatic. Most creepies were obsessed with certain things or objects, and would not stray too far from that obsession. But Yesha couldn't figure out what the obsession of the creepy broadcast was. Could it be? He looked at the head-worn microphone placed on top of the computer case. It was something he had taken from the creepy guy. Yesha didn't throw it away, but brought it home instead. "Boss, I'm hungry. Can you make me something to eat?" Lu Yuning interrupted his thoughts. Yesha wanted to keep her away, just in case the microphone had some issues that could harm her. "Sure." Lu Yuning happily pinched Yesha's face and went to the kitchen, which had just been fixed up a few days ago, to make food for her little man. As Lu Yuning disappeared into the kitchen, Yesha turned his attention back to the microphone in his hand. He tried to figure it out, but couldn't understand what was special about it. Should I take it apart? A thought came to him, and he began to exert force with his hand. He had recently discovered that his strength had increased, surpassing the limits of humans. Don't. A familiar voice echoed in his mind, startling Yesha. He fiercely threw the microphone to the ground, ready to transform into a werewolf. It was the voice of the creepy broadcast. "Is it not dead yet?" In the kitchen, Liu Yuning poked her head out curiously and asked, "Yesha, what's going on?" "Boss, you stay in the kitchen and don't come out." Yesha didn't turn around but cautioned her. Liu Yuning obediently retreated back into the kitchen, as she trusted Yesha's judgment and continued cooking. "You're not dead?" Yesha shouted at the microphone on the ground. "No. It's not, I." The voice didn't come from reality, but from within Yesha's mind, as if someone was speaking from inside his body. "Then who are you?" Yesha continued to question, feeling slightly more relaxed as he didn't have any danger warning. "I am the microphone." Under Yesha's persistent questioning, he finally learned the whole story. This microphone wasn't strange in itself, but was an object that had been infected by a strange force and gained its own will. The strange man had been a fitness enthusiast who had never managed to obtain a coaching certificate, and his obsession had been with this microphone from the beginning. After the fitness club incident, the strange man had become infuriated and transferred his obsession onto Yesha, which is why he was able to leave the gym and pursue him all the way to the mall. The microphone was not something that belonged to the strange man initially, but it was something he had picked up. Its true form was that of a giant monster that only used brute force to kill. The power to drive people to suicide using broadcasts, manipulate Liu Yuning with the black mist, and drive plastic monsters to kill were all abilities of the microphone, and the strange man was merely its user. "You're so scary, I can't let you stay." Yesha frowned after patiently listening to the microphone's fragmented words. The microphone's abilities were indeed powerful, but they were also very dangerous, and he didn't feel confident enough to defend against its sneak attacks. "I am a tool, a killing weapon. I need to attach to someone else to use my power." As if sensing Yesha's wariness, the microphone hastily explained itself. However, its fragmented tone was really annoying. How do I believe you? Yisha had a plan to deal with it. You don't want to be eliminated by me, so you must pay some price, right? You made me feel so nauseous before. Power, give you half. The microphone was indeed weak, as its survival depended entirely on Yisha's decision. Give me half? What do you mean? Can't I use all of your power if I use you? Yisha, who had just come into contact with strange things, didn't understand the meaning immediately. Using me is using my power, giving to you is your power. After hearing the intermittent explanation, Yisha finally understood. If he simply used the microphone, the power would still be on the microphone, and he would just be a user. If he accepted the gift, then half of the microphone's power would become his own strength. Are you betting? Yisha silently thought in his heart. He was not an indecisive person, but he needed to consider it carefully. In today's world, crises were everywhere. If he was not strong enough, he could not protect himself, nor could he protect Lu Yuning. Since he could die at any time under strangeness, he could not be afraid and reject possible opportunities. Having made up his mind, Yisha's eyes sharpened. He picked up the microphone from the ground and returned to his bedroom, locking the door to avoid scaring Lu Yuning. After taking off his clothes and pants, Yisha instantly transformed into a werewolf, his eerie green wolf pupils staring at the microphone in his hand. You can start. If you dare to play tricks, I will crush you first. I won't. As soon as the microphone finished speaking, black gas flowed out of it, automatically floating towards Yisha. Yi. Sha did not feel any threat, but rather a familiar feeling. This black gas seemed to be the spoils absorbed by Yisha after strangeness died. A strange energy entered his body and quickly merged with his original strength. Yisha's wolf eyes flashed with light. He could feel that he had gained a strange ability, probably the brainwashing sound wave that the strange broadcast had once demonstrated. Now, with a random howl, he could attach this brainwashing sound wave, not only causing physical sonic attacks, but also controlling ordinary creatures that heard the sound, which was quite powerful. Of course, the release of this ability came at a cost, requiring him to consume his mental strength. If he used it without restraint, he might experience severe headaches and fainting. What other power do you have left? Yisha turned back into a human, asking the microphone while putting on his clothes. There was now a connection between the person and the object through their shared power, and this strange thing could no longer make small moves. If it killed Yisha, it would also collapse and disappear. I can help you control black mist. The microphone replied. It had only 2 abilities, and one of them was given to Yisha. Help me? Yisha quickly waved his hand to refuse. No, I don't need you anymore. You go help my girlfriend. He is already a creepy werewolf, and his fighting style is close combat. In addition, he has the ability to brainwash with his music, making it impossible for ordinary creeps to take him down. He has some self-defense skills. On the other hand, Lu Yuning needs some self-defense skills as Yisha. No matter how strong he is, he cannot completely protect her. After all, in the shopping mall incident, Lu Yuning was taken away silently even when she was by his side. Well, okay. The microphone seemed a bit lost. It certainly wanted to attach itself to Yisha because of his power, but it could not refuse Yisha's request. Because after the will of these infected items is born, they will only have 2 choices. Either attach to creep and accept the power given by the creep, or cooperate with humans to hunt and kill powerful creeps themselves. Therefore, according to their different choices, there will be different names. Those who attach to the creep are called creep items, those who follow humans are called allies. By the way, I want to ask a question? Yisha suddenly felt a little embarrassed. As a creep like me, if I get close to humans, will it hurt them? After the shopping mall incident, Yisha understood a truth: don't be too affected. If you like someone, just express your feelings directly, and enjoy the relationship as soon as possible. Don't wait until it's too late to regret. Ask yourself, How could Yi Sha not be moved by Lu Yuning's active and beautiful appearance, and the two of them have gone through two difficult events together? You are creep, but also human. The microphone's intermittent words made Yi Sha realize something. Yes. He is human without transforming. How could there be any problem with human-to-human interaction? It was not until now that Yi Sha realized that he had been stuck in his own thoughts and walked into a dead end. The answer is good, I'll call you Xiaomai from now on. Yi Sha was quite happy and gave the creep microphone a name on the spot. The microphone, who used to love to talk, was speechless. It suspected that it had followed the wrong person. Does it not have any face? But Yi Sha did not know the grievances in its heart. He picked it up and put it in his pocket, and walked out of the bedroom. The wind was strong, rustling the leaves of trees on the roadside. Li Qingfeng stood alone at the entrance of the Jiangyang City Demon-Slaying Division, with a group of action team members standing behind him, waiting to welcome the arrival of the high-ranking experts from headquarters. A business car with the emblem of the Demon-Slaying Division slowly approached and stopped steadily. Several demon slayers dressed in black uniforms got out of the car, each of them carrying eye-catching demon-slaying weapons, exuding a powerful and serious aura. Li Qingfeng couldn't help but secretly nod in admiration. The experts sent by headquarters were even more impressive than the people from their own division. Finally, a cold and beautiful woman with long legs got out of the car. She was dressed in a black combat uniform that perfectly showcased her curvaceous figure. Her knee-deer-length hair made her look very capable, and her expressionless face was as cold as an iceberg, but exuded a different kind of charm. Despite her stunning beauty, a sharp and shiny sword hung from her waist, with a blood-red cloth tied around the circular hilt, which was being blown wildly by the wind. The sword and the ice-cold beauty's temperament did not match at all, but there was a strange sense of coordination. This demon-slaying weapon had an extraordinary origin and might have been through countless battles. The members of the action team held their breaths, not knowing whether they were shocked by the cold and beautiful woman's appearance or intimidated by her strong aura. Which one of you is Li Qingfeng, the deputy team leader? The cold and beautiful woman, named Yan Wei, walked towards them slowly. Her voice was cold, devoid of emotion. I am Li Qingfeng. Nice to meet you, Captain Yan. Li Qingfeng reached out his hand and exchanged formalities. Okay, Vice Captain Li, let's not waste time on pleasantries. Yan Wei didn't shake his hand and instead scanned the members of the team with her cold and beautiful eyes. The first meeting of the Prison Wolf team will begin immediately. All team members should gather in the conference room in 1 minute. Li Qingfeng didn't get angry either, as he could tell that Yan Wei was someone who didn't like getting close to others. It was unnecessary to force a handshake. Okay, Captain Yan. Please, let me take you to the conference room. Li Qingfeng became agile and led the way towards the Jianyang branch, with Yan Wei following closely behind with her long legs, and the demon slayers she brought along remained silent and followed their captain. The local team members looked shocked. They had never seen a demon slayer who was so cold and beautiful, straightforward, and devoid of emotions. Hurry up and follow us. Li Qingfeng turned around and shouted at the team, waking them up and causing them to hurry over. In the meeting room, everyone was seated and Yan Wei stood in front of the table, slowly speaking. Headquarters has indicated that the werewolf is the only cryptid we have been able to communicate with for many years. Therefore, you must take it seriously and follow orders for all actions in the future, and not act impulsively. Yes. The team members answered in unison. Vice Li, please explain again the situation when you encountered the werewolf. Yan Wei looked at Li Qingfeng, who nodded and stood up. After the werewolf killed and devoured the cryptid, its strength increased significantly. It told me to unite all the forces that could be united to defeat the cryptids. Li Qingfeng briefly summarized the situation, paused for a moment, and continued speaking. Therefore, I believe that in the current situation in Jiangyang City, where the cryptids are increasing, it is necessary to have appropriate communication with the werewolf, and unite all the forces. Very good, it is basically in line with the headquarters view. Yan Wei agreed and immediately issued the first order as the team leader. Therefore, we need to first find the werewolf in Jianyang City. Please feel free to provide reasonable suggestions. I suggest starting from the crime scenes and conducting a carpet-like search around the area. The werewolf, as a powerful cryptid, must have left some traces. A middle-aged male slayer raised his hand to speak. That area is so large, we don't have enough manpower. Other slayers immediately objected. Just declare to the werewolf and notify it to meet with us. A straightforward slayer said, causing others to turn their heads to look at him. What are you thinking? This needs to be kept secret from the public. If they know that we have thoughts of cooperating with cryptids, public opinion will immediately collapse. The slayer, who was friendly with the straightforward slayer, quickly explained it to him. The straightforward man awkwardly rubbed his head and no longer offered any opinions. I was thinking, if we appeal to its interests, would it appear? Li Chingfeng looked at Yan Wei, then at the other team members, and said, we can disclose the existence of known powerful cryptids in Jianyang City, and then send someone to watch the related locations. If the werewolf needs to grow itself, it may go hunting those cryptids, and we can also find its traces from them. Not bad, it's a two birds with one stone plan. Yan Wei spoke, almost having decided. The people in the conference room frowned at the idea of revealing the hiding place of one anomaly to another. Could it lead to an alliance between them? Don't worry, the situation in Jianyang City is not so bad that we can't handle it. Yan Wei reassured her colleagues, guessing their concerns. I am the guarantee for our operation, the stunning woman declared firmly, making everyone flinch a little, but also gaining some confidence. The strength of the Slayers' headquarters was formidable, and their decisions were almost never wrong. If the experts sent by the headquarters were this confident, then the local Slayers in Jianyang shouldn't be afraid to act either. Team leader Yan, please assign the tasks. Li Chingfeng, representing the local Slayers, spoke up for his colleagues. All right. Yan Wei turned to the electronic screen behind her, which displayed the headshots of each member of the task force. Since we want to cater to their preferences, we need to classify the anomalies that have appeared in Jianyang City but have not been resolved. Yan Wei pointed to a female slayer's headshot on the screen. Zhu Hanyan, please collect the information and classify it according to the region and the characteristics of the anomalies. Submit it to me before tomorrow's meeting. Understood. Zhu Hanyan was inclined towards auxiliary support as a slayer, and her anomaly weapon was a pair of black-rimmed glasses that enhanced her memory. She could remember everything she saw, read, or heard. Because her weapon had almost no combat power, she was unable to grow much stronger and could only assist with logistics in dangerous situations. Next, I will name each member and arrange them into 6 teams of 3, according to their complementary abilities. Yan Wei had already learned about the abilities of every member of the team on her way to Jianyang City. She divided the teams based on how their abilities could match. After reciting a list of names, Yan Wei explained, the main task of the teams listed above is to guard the anomaly points, monitor them 24/7, and report any activity immediately. The rest of you will stay armed and on standby at the branch, and are not allowed to act on your own, for timely support. Li Chingfeng was about to object, not wanting to be stuck waiting at the branch, but Yan Wei's next words dispelled his doubts. Vice Captain Li, you are not included. Your strength is considerable and you are capable of acting independently. Yan Wei was indeed an expert, able to assess Li Chingfeng's abilities in such a short time. He was no match for werewolves due to his weak physical body, and had no advantages in close combat. However, General Qilian's sword had great power, and its long-range sword energy was a nightmare for ordinary anomalies. I, Vice Captain Li, and the others will act independently and be dispersed throughout Jianyang City. This will not only allow us to search for anomalies, but also provide timely support to each guard team. Yan Wei pointed to the 5 slayers she had brought with her. They hadn't spoken a word and their faces were all serious and cold. Above is the basic task arrangement. Tomorrow, the operation will begin officially. Please take care of your affairs tonight. Dismissed. It was a very cold statement, but none of the slayers present showed any unusual expression. This was a tradition of the Slayers Bureau. Before any mission, they would give the slayers time to take care of their affairs, because combating anomalies was a matter of life and death. Late at night, the lights were still on at the Jiangyang City Slayer branch, but there weren't many people working. Still working overtime, Zhu Hanyan looked distressed as she worked on her report forms. Before becoming a slayer, she was just a little office clerk, doing reports day in and day out. She never thought that even after becoming a slayer, she would still have to do reports. What a waste of being a slayer. Xiao Zhu, how's it going? Li Qingfeng was still in the department, carrying 2 cups of coffee as he walked over and handed one to Zhu Hanyan. Thanks, Li Ji. Zhu Hanyan took the cup and took a sip of bitter coffee. I'm almost done, but I never thought that there would be so many visible anomalies in Jiangyang City. What about those that we haven't found yet? There must be a lot of them. It's unavoidable. Some anomalies are very tricky, so we can only put them aside for now. For others, they appear and disappear without a trace. We can't even catch a tail, Li Qingfeng said. Li Qingfeng could actually accept the current situation in Jiangyang. He had been borrowed by the Jiangyin Bureau before and had seen the human hell firsthand. Compared to that, Jiangyang society was still functioning normally and doing quite well. So we have to find a breakthrough, namely the werewolf. Li Qingfeng said softly, if we succeed, it will be like the story of the clam and the snipe fighting, and we will benefit. And, what if we fail? Zhu Hanyan asked timidly. After all, she was still a newcomer and couldn't understand the decision-making process above her. Then people will die. What can't we lose as slayers? Li Qingfeng's smile was tinged with bitterness, but it also revealed his determination to slay all anomalies. Zhu Hanyan looked at him in a daze. After coming back to her senses, she immediately returned to working on the intelligence forms. It seemed like there was nothing she couldn't lose. After all, her boyfriend who was willing to die to save her had been eaten by the anomaly, and his body was gone without a trace. Although he knew there wouldn't be any problems, Yi Sha still struggled for several days. He didn't dare to confess to Lu Yunan that he was a half-eerie being. After all, humans had struggled with the concept of the eerie for a long time, so how could they easily understand his half-human, half-eerie state? Besides, his werewolf appearance was enough to scare people to death, with a monstrous face like a demon from hell. No matter how open-minded Lu was, she might still be scared out of nightmares. Early in the morning, Yi Sha got up to exercise and went to the balcony to do some workouts. He was venting his frustration and confusion. In the face of the eerie, he could plan and act decisively, but in the face of emotions, he was afraid of making mistakes. After all, his situation was unique, and he was a person on an eerie path. Lu Yunan could sense that the young man she liked had been down in the dumps for the past few days, as if he had been hit by the aunt's visit. Casually putting on a cool silk robe, Lu Yunan walked into the kitchen, carrying breakfast, and went to the balcony where Yi Sha was exercising. Would you like to go out and play with me? Lu Yunan took a fruit salad and affectionately fed it to Yi Sha's mouth, saying, Okay, we've been cooped up at home for too long. Yi Sha stopped exercising, wiped away his sweat, and swallowed the piece of fruit in one gulp. Since the incident at the mall, the two had been living together as a couple. Although Yi Sha had never confessed, their relationship as lovers was already obvious. Yi Sha had originally planned to go out and find a job, but Lu Yunan didn't agree. She said that the labor contract was for 3 years, and she was still Yi Sha's boss. She claimed that she was hiring him as her personal bodyguard. Yes, a bodyguard who sleeps together. Therefore, the 23-year-old Yi Sha was basically a man who didn't need to work hard. Because Lu Yunan was really rich, her family's property was vast and well-known internationally. Although she had a conflict with her family and came out to make a living on her own, Lu Yunan was still wealthy. Is there something you want to tell me? Lu Yunan smiled slyly, leaned in, and asked Yi Sha. She liked to take the initiative. Smelling the fresh scent of perfume and looking at the beautiful and charming face, Yisha finally made up his mind. Yes, let's go out first and relax, and when we come back, I'll explain everything to you. Good boy. Lu Yunan got the response she had been waiting for, and happily kissed Yisha's lips. Yisha had just finished exercising, and his testosterone levels were high. With this kind of stimulation, his reaction came instantly. He quickly covered his pants, ran away, and went to the bathroom. Lu Yunan covered her mouth and chuckled, with a seductive blush on her face. Little Yisha, you're quite promising. This time, we're at Ren de Barbecue, the most popular restaurant in Jiangyang City, to evaluate their dishes. Pretty anchorwoman, Zhu Yan, held a selfie stick and conducted live broadcasts on the roadside. There were also several assistants helping her with the live broadcast. Zhu Yan was a popular online anchorwoman who was quite beautiful and charming. Her live broadcasts were also quite interesting, not just simple singing and dancing or showing off her beauty. Therefore, she had a solid fan base and a large audience volume. Due to frequent strange incidents, some people are too scared to go to work and prefer to stay at home and engage in online entertainment. As a result, the popularity of internet celebrities such as Zhu Yu has increased. In order to retain her newly gained followers, she decided to focus on creating content related to food reviews. A man rushed over from the other side of the street, panting and holding several tickets. He approached Zhu Yu and said, "Boss, I got the tickets. The barbecue restaurant is so popular that there's a long queue." "Good job. Go get some water." Zhu Yu took the tickets and immediately put on a smiley face for the camera. She shook the tickets in her hand and told her audience, "I got the tickets. I'm taking you all to the barbecue restaurant." Gifts began to flood the livestream chat, and Zhu Yu's smile became a little more genuine. However, she realized that she only had 5 tickets while there were 6 people in her group. Since Xiaoli managed to get a ticket, he should go. Zhu Yu started to make decisions about which employees would go or stay. "How about Xiaolu? You don't have to come since you're new, and you won't be able to contribute much anyway." Lu Yakin, who was holding on to bags of props, looked at Zhu Yu's expression and guessed that she would not be able to go. She stepped forward and said, "Boss, I won't go. It's not convenient to carry all these things in, and I can take care of them here." "Oh no, that won't do. You're our new colleague. How can I leave you behind?" Zhu Yu pretended to be hesitant. "It's alright, boss. Work comes first, and these live stream props aren't cheap." Lu Yakin smiled and stuck to her decision. "What should we do then?" Zhu Yu was still pretending when suddenly her other female assistant shouted excitedly, "Boss, I think it's our turn. I heard them calling out our number on the other side. Shall we go in and check?" Zhu Yu was pleased that her assistant understood her intentions and found a way out. With an apologetic smile, she said to Lu Yakin, "Xiao Lu, sorry about this. Can you please stay here and watch over things? I'll take you out for a meal next time." "It's alright, boss. You guys go ahead." Lu Yakin responded, having already dealt with her fake boss. She watched as Zhu Yu and her team crossed the street and disappeared into the restaurant. Lu Yakin just graduated and became an intern for the live streaming team of Zhuyao. She comes from a small remote county in the north. For some reason, other assistants in the team seem to have intentionally or unintentionally targeted her with snide remarks and taunts. Of course, the attitude of the boss is the most crucial. Lu Yakin is quite pretty, with bright eyes, white teeth, and a lovely smile. She basically has the same pure style as Zhu Yao. Perhaps Zhu feels a career crisis and fears Lu Yakin's appearance, or maybe it's just natural rejection between beautiful women. Regardless, Lu Yakin's internship has not been smooth. The sun was quite strong in the morning, and the young girl couldn't withstand the heat. She struggled to lift the big bags of live streaming props and headed towards the milk tea shop to escape the heat. A handsome man in a suit parked his luxury car on the roadside and saw Lu Yakin struggling to drag her bags. He stepped forward to help. "Beauty, let me help you." The man was young and had a warm smile. He didn't seem to have any bad intentions. Oh, okay, thank you. Lu Yakin was already sweating from exhaustion. When she saw the young, handsome guy offering to help, she breathed a sigh of relief and thanked him. The man helped Lu Yakin move all the props under the shade of the parasol in front of the milk tea shop. However, he didn't immediately leave and kept smiling warmly. He pulled out his phone and said to Lu Yakin, "Beauty, I actually wanted to add you on WeChat and get to know you." Lu Yakin smiled. She didn't think there was anything wrong with it since she was often asked to add guys on WeChat back in school. Sure, why not? How about I treat you to some milk tea? You helped me carry my props, after all. Lu Yakin added the man on WeChat and politely offered. You're too kind. But being treated by a beauty like you is my honor. The young man smiled and nodded. Lu Yakin invited him to sit down, and she went inside the milk tea shop to order. She found it a bit strange that the man was wearing a suit on such a hot day and didn't even break a sweat carrying so many things. Perhaps it was just his constitution. When the milk tea arrived, the man was curious and asked about Lu Yakin's situation. Beauty, why are you guarding these props in the hot sun? Are you working? We're doing live streaming. Today, we're here to review the cuisine at Renda Barbecue. But the tickets were too difficult to get, so I volunteered to stay behind and look after the props. Live streaming was not a secret, so Lu Yakin explained it. That's a coincidence. The man laughed. I happen to be the owner of Renda Barbecue. Let me take you inside. Is that appropriate? Wouldn't it affect the arrangements in the restaurant? Lu Yakin was also quite happy. She felt like she was experiencing one of those coincidences that make life beautiful. They couldn't get in before, but then they met the kind-hearted owner who was willing to help. There won't be any problem. Besides, I also want to thank you for treating me to milk tea. It's just common courtesy. The man waved the cold drink in his hand, and his words were quite soothing. But I still have to watch over these props. I can't leave them behind. Thank you for your kind offer, though. Lu Yakin thought about. It's okay, you can leave it at this milk tea shop, the staff will definitely take good care of it. The man didn't give up and continued to invite. But why would they be willing to look after someone else's belongings when they're so busy with their own business? Lu Yakin looked puzzled at the counter of the milk tea shop, where there was also a long queue of customers. Because this milk tea shop is also mine. The man smiled at Lu Yakin and got up from his seat, walking over to the counter to talk to the staff. After a moment, a male employee came out to guard the props. Lu Yakin smiled awkwardly, surprised that this young and wealthy man had such an interesting personality. Lady, after you. The man made a gentlemanly gesture and Lu Yakin couldn't refuse anymore. She thanked him and followed him across the street into the crowded barbecue restaurant. It's so delicious. Zhu Yan ate the barbecue and spoke into the live broadcast camera, my family really has to come and try this. After eating this barbecue, we won't be able to eat any other meat. The viewers in the live broadcast room didn't believe it, and many left comments saying it was impossible. How much advertising fee did the broadcaster receive from the restaurant? It must be too little. They deliberately acted like it was delicious to hint that we shouldn't go. Laughing to death, how can barbecue be delicious? Only primitive people eat it. You're the primitive one. Your whole family is primitive. He's getting angry, he's hitting the nail on the head. The live broadcast room was full of disbelief, mockery, and even arguments among the comments. Zhu Yan had to turn the camera around and film his 4 assistants. They had been eating and couldn't stop, their eyes only on the delicious barbecue in front of them. This scene shocked the viewers in the live broadcast room. They couldn't believe that barbecue could be so delicious. Boss, this meat is too delicious. We really came to the right place today. The female assistant with oil all over her mouth muttered loudly without even looking up, stuffing 2 more pieces of meat into her mouth in the time it took to say that sentence. Ah yes, it's like meat from the heavens. I've never had barbecue this delicious before. It was worth waiting in line today. Little Lee's mouth was stuffed with meat as he shared his experience. The live chat room was going crazy with discussion, seeing this authentic tasting scene. Some were starting to believe. Looks so delicious. I want to try it too. I don't believe it, unless they give me a ticket to the barbecue restaurant. Give it to you? Now a single ticket to their restaurant is selling for thousands online. It's just hype, must be. A barbecue restaurant blowing it up like this? They must have spent a lot on advertising. Eating so deliciously, it doesn't seem like a scam. But either the meat or the cooking method is a problem. Jiyu was also not paying attention to the chat room's rhythm, enjoying the food while she could, or else her 4 assistants would eat it all. Renda Barbecue Restaurant has 2 floors with a large area and many dining tables, able to accommodate many customers at the same time, showing that the boss behind it is not only strong, but also extremely confident in their own cuisine. Lu Yakin followed the young man up the stairs to the 2nd floor of the barbecue restaurant. This man had just introduced himself as Zhang Sun, a local of Jiangyang who accidentally got hold of the secret recipe for barbecue and opened this popular restaurant. As soon as she reached the 2nd floor, Lu Yakin saw her boss and colleagues feasting, like starved ghosts, without any sense of restraint. This startled her. You should know that as a top anchor on the platform, Jiyu usually cares a lot about her pure and virtuous image. But now, even before the live broadcast ended, she ate like this. Does this barbecue really have such a huge magic power? Zhang Sun saw this scene and chuckled, Miss Lu, don't be too surprised. After you try our signature dish, you'll understand why our customers can't restrain themselves. Lu Yakin forced a smile and nodded. She had read news before about unscrupulous restaurant owners putting poppy pollen in the food to get customers addicted, which was really scary. Coming from a poor family, she wasn't someone who enjoyed good food. Now she was also startled by her boss's ugly eating habits, and couldn't help but feel a bit resistant. After all, she was a girl who loved beauty, why would she willingly show her ugly face to others? Miss Lu may not be very hungry. We don't have to rush, you can go find your colleagues first. I'll take care of things here and come back to find you later. Zhang Sun could see Lu Yakin's thoughts and was understanding. Okay, see you later. Lu Yakin actually had a good impression of Zhang Sun. After all, he spoke very nicely and was handsome. She had no reason to be cold to him, right? Jiyu finally stopped eating, her once flat belly now rounded and bloated from all the food. The 3 other female assistants also put down their chopsticks, but only Shaoli, the lone male, continued to eat, perhaps due to gender differences in appetite. The girls sipped on their drinks, but didn't seem to have any intention of leaving, as if they were preparing to digest a bit before continuing to eat meat. Lu Yakin furrowed her brow and walked over to see that the table was piled high with barbecue plates, with scraps and residue littering the surface in a mess. Boss, the livestream is still on. Lu Yakin reminded Jiyu as she approached, and the latter hurriedly checked the barrage on her phone. Wow, scary. Starving ghost? The host is eating so well? I watched her eat 3 bowls of rice. Looks like it's really delicious, I'm going to try it tomorrow. It's not greasy? I would have thrown up after eating so much. Meat. Don't be sarcastic, the host is going all out for promotion. The pace of the livestream was fast, and Jiyu frowned as she realized that it was Lu Yakin who had just reminded her. Xiao Lu, how did you get up here? Where did you put the props? Jiyu asked, temporarily closing the livestream. I met the owner of this shop, and he invited me in. I left the props with a tea shop employee to look after, Lu Yakin explained. Jiyu was already feeling frustrated by the pace of the livestream, and naturally had to vent her frustration on her employee. Tisk, you're quite daring. Those props aren't cheap, if anything happens, you'll be responsible for it. Yes, I know, Lu Yakin sighed inwardly, harboring some thoughts of quitting her job. Oh dear. Shaoli, who had been eating non-stop, suddenly dropped his chopsticks and clutched his stomach, howling in pain. He had overestimated his stomach capacity, and was now suffering from the bloating caused by all the meat. Large beads of sweat dripped down his forehead, and his face had turned somewhat pale. Lu Yakin was frightened and hurriedly called over a waiter by the staircase. However, the waiters weren't particularly alarmed, and sent 2 male employees to start massaging Xiao Li's stomach, trying to relieve his discomfort. They had seen plenty of customers come in and get bloated from overeating, and were well versed in massage techniques. Perhaps they could even become top massage therapists at a massage parlor, of the legitimate variety, of course. When Xiao Li finally stopped screaming, the employees helped him back to his seat and returned to their positions. It was only then that Lu Yakin noticed that no one else on the second floor was paying attention to Xiao Li's condition. They were all too busy stuffing their faces, afraid of eating too slowly. Her boss and colleagues had stopped eating, but were still smacking their lips and reminiscing about the delicious food, completely ignoring Xiao Li's condition. How strange. Lu Yakin couldn't help but feel repulsed by the scene, finding the whole barbecue restaurant to be filled with strange phenomena. Yesha held Louis Yuning's hand and looked curiously at the crowded Ren de barbecue restaurant. They had gone for a walk in the park and were now hungry for lunch. Of course, they couldn't get in right away, but Louis Yuning made a phone call and shortly after, someone arrived and respectfully handed them tickets. "Miss Louis, the gentleman and lady asked me to tell you that they would like to have dinner with you sometime. They miss you a lot." The well-dressed man with neatly combed hair bent slightly to tell Louis Yuning. "Tell them I'll consider it later." Louis Yuning's attitude was not good and she impatiently waved her hand, obviously having a big conflict with her family. "Okay, have fun, Miss Louis." The man bowed to Louis Yuning and then got into the car. Yesha didn't ask anything, he just held Louis Yuning's hand tighter. Everyone has secrets, and sharing them requires an appropriate time. Louis Yuning had been upset when her parents were mentioned, but when she felt her boyfriend's hand tightening, she immediately smiled and hugged Yesha's arm, her mountain-like peaks tightly pressed against him, pushing him into the barbecue restaurant. "It's so big. We've been together for so long, but it still feels so big." Yesha couldn't help feeling the softness and charm transmitted through his arm. "Is it really that good?" Louis Yuning found it hard to believe when she entered the barbecue restaurant and saw that almost everyone was buried in their food. In this era of advanced mobile phones and developed networks, it was strange that not a single person was playing with their phones. "Yes, our restaurant's cuisine is unforgettable after just one experience." The nearby waitress smiled and advertised, her eyes seemingly revealing a longing for barbecue. "Where should we sit?" Louis Yuning asked Yesha next to her. She still cared about Yesha's opinion, after all, they were not in a relationship of mutual support. "Let's sit upstairs, there are a lot of people waiting downstairs." Yesha curiously looked around. He was interested in the decoration style of the barbecue restaurant, which was quite unique, with a neat layout and majestic animal prints on the walls, giving a grand and imposing feel. Louis Yuning nodded to the waitress and the latter picked up a wooden board, saying, "Please follow me upstairs for your dining experience, valued guests." The two of them were led by the waiter to the second floor and sat in a window seat. The menu was promptly brought over. As a fitness enthusiast, Yisha usually eats meat, but it's usually high-protein meats like chicken breast and beef, cooked by boiling or frying. So he and Lu Yunan discussed not ordering pork because of its high-fat content. Lu Yunan, also a fitness enthusiast, naturally agreed with the proposal. While waiting for their food, Lu Yunan answered a phone call, apparently from her girlfriend. Yisha didn't listen, but curiously looked around at the diners. Normally, it's impolite to watch others eat because there's a high chance of causing conflicts like "What are you looking at?" and "What's your problem?" But the customers in this barbecue restaurant didn't care about anything outside their tables. They could even quit their cell phones for barbecue, so why would they care about other people's eyes? The hungry customers were all the same, and Yisha soon gave up on his exploration. The conversation at the seat behind him suddenly caught his attention. Lu Yakin and Zhang Sun were facing each other, and there was no food in front of them, only drinks from the restaurant. "Miss Lu, won't you consider trying our restaurant's delicacies? I'm treating you today." Zhang Sun smiled gently, looking very sunny. "I might come try it myself next time. I'm feeling a bit unwell today, so I might not be able to eat barbecue." Lu Yakan smiled and refused politely, without any suspicion. "Well, health comes first. Since you can't eat, I don't know if I'll have a chance to invite Miss Lu to a movie later." Zhang Sun stopped there and didn't push further. Instead, he invited her to a movie. Although Lu Yakan didn't feel like eating barbecue, she had a good impression of Zhang Sun and smiled, nodding in agreement. "I usually have weekends off." "Great, this weekend I'll invite Miss Lu to a movie, how about that?" Zhang Sun looked quite happy. Although he was a wealthy owner, he also had the vitality of a young person. "Sounds good, let's talk about it on WeChat." Lu Yakan waved her phone at Zhang Sun and stood up to leave. Her boss and colleagues were ready to leave, and she had to follow. "Goodbye, Miss Lu." Zhang Sun also stood up and waved goodbye with a smile on his face. Their conversation was normal, and Yisha didn't care about it. He had developed a habit of listening to any information in the surrounding environment, collecting intelligence, and guarding against any possible danger. Although it was impolite, he was half eerie, and werewolves didn't need to follow human etiquette. As soon as the ordered dishes were served, Yisha couldn't help but feel nauseous looking at the greasy meat splashing with oil. Ever since he gained the power to transform into a werewolf, his appetite had increased significantly, and he could consume a considerable amount of food. However, he now couldn't even bear to look at those deliciously seasoned grilled meats. It felt like feces from the toilet had been brought to the dining table. The dripping meat juices looked like yellowed urine. Lu Yuning was still on the phone, absent-mindedly picking up her chopsticks and about to put the meat in her mouth. Yisha, who was holding back his nausea, reached out and grabbed her wrist, preventing her from eating. "What's wrong?" Lu Yuning noticed that her boyfriend's complexion was off, quickly ended her call with the person on the other end, and sat next to Yisha, asking with concern. "There's a problem." Yisha whispered into Lu Yuning's ear. His bodily reaction must have been indicating something. "Then shall we go? Let's not eat anymore?" Lu Yuning asked in a soft voice, concerned about her boyfriend's condition. The two of them were acting intimately and looked like they were cuddling, so the waitstaff didn't notice anything unusual. "Okay." Yisha quickly stood up with Lu Yuning. He could no longer tolerate that disgusting scene. After all, those excrement-like things were placed in exquisite bowls and dishes, and presented on the table, which was enough to make one vomit. As the two were about to go downstairs, a man in a suit walked over curiously and looked at them. It was the owner of the barbecue restaurant, Zhang Sun. "Why are you leaving? The food has just arrived?" Zhang Sun looked at Lu Yuning, his eyes lit up, but he didn't seem to have any malicious intentions. "My boyfriend is not feeling well. We won't eat for now. I'll pay the bill," Lu Yuning casually responded to Zhang Sun and didn't care what else he had to say. She just walked past him with Yisha and went downstairs. Zhang Sun opened his mouth to speak, but realized he had lost his target, so he chuckled self-deprecatingly, then turned around and sat naturally in the seats where Yisha and Lu Yuning were sitting just now. The server who came to clean up saw the boss, didn't say anything and stopped, then turned back to her station. "Just a little more," Zhang Sun murmured to himself, looking at the passers-by on the street outside, thinking about something. "What happened just now?" Lu Yuning hugged Yisha's arm and asked curiously. Her little boyfriend had returned to his normal appearance once they left the barbecue restaurant, so he must have been fine now. "The meat has a problem." Yisha thought for a moment, feeling that the explanation was a bit troublesome, so she decided to be honest with her boss and said to Lu Yuning, "Let's go home now, and I will confess to you." "Okay. I'll order something else to eat. It should arrive just as we get home. We can eat and talk at the same time." Lu Yuning smiled and bent her beautiful eyes. She really wanted to know Isha's secret. After all, it was the key to taking their relationship to the next level. Isha also smiled and turned to look at the barbecue shop. There were still long queues of people, and she didn't know what kind of terrible and strange things were behind it. "Boss, what I'm about to say next, don't be afraid." Isha was serious, and she made sure that Lu Yuning sat opposite her. "I'm your boss, I won't be afraid." Lu Yuning looked at her little boyfriend with interest and cooperated with Isha. "I'm half weird, the kind that's very scary and creepy." Isha looked straight into Lu Yuning's beautiful and mesmerizing eyes. He was already prepared to be abandoned. If Lu Yuning couldn't accept it, he would leave the city and find a place to stay in the deep mountains and old forests. "How could you be weird?" Lu Yuning leaned over, wearing a small t-shirt that revealed her charming and deep cleavage. She pinched Isha's cheek and poked his chest with her finger. "You're still a handsome guy." "I'm serious. I can turn into something creepy. Right now, I'm in my human form," Isha continued to explain when she saw that Lu Yuning didn't believe her. "Would you hurt me? Would you eat people?" Lu Yuning asked in a tender voice, her face against Isha's, sitting on his lap, before he even realized it. "Of course not, I just want to protect you, and protect you in this creepy world." Isha said sincerely, "Although I am creepy, I am also human, so I don't want to harm humans." "Well, that's it. I don't care what you are. You're my little employee, my little boyfriend." Lu Yuning hugged Isha with a smile, obviously not caring about this terrifying identity. "But it's really scary, you know. It's the kind that makes you have nightmares, just by looking at it." Isha continued to speak, since she had nothing to hide. Yesha looked at Lao Ban's exquisite face with some calmness. However, she gave a warning in advance, "Boss, I will turn into the appearance of a werewolf, so be mentally prepared." "Okay." Lao Ban obediently nodded, staring at her little boyfriend with curiosity. But she blushed immediately, her eyes flickering, because Yesha was taking off his clothes, revealing a strong and muscular body. "You're taking off your clothes for what? Are you thinking about doing that with me?" Lao Ban suddenly became coquettish, nervously pulling the hem of her clothes. "I didn't expect you to be so eager." "Well, it's not impossible." "No, boss. My clothes will burst when I transform." Yesha cried out helplessly, finding the misunderstanding amusing. "Okay." Lao Ban awkwardly touched her face, her tone full of regret. "I'm coming." Yesha reminded his girlfriend one last time, before feeling confident enough to begin his transformation. Lao Ban widened her beautiful eyes, her breath becoming rapid. Her red lips opened but no words came out as she was shocked by the sight in front of her. Her little boyfriend had turned into a terrifying and ferocious werewolf in an instant. His thick and powerful hands turned into sharp wolf claws, and his sturdy and muscular body was covered with shiny and supple fur. His young and handsome face was replaced by a ferocious and bloodthirsty wolf's head, which was now staring at her with its mouth wide open. "Yesha?" Lao Ban's courage was truly admirable as she dared to tentatively ask. "It's me, boss. This is what I look like in my strange form." The werewolf's voice was low and hoarse, different from Yesha's clean and crisp baritone. "Don't move, I want to. I want to hug you." Getting an affirmative answer from Yesha, Lao Ban became excited and was not worried at all that the werewolf would harm her. Her curiosity had suddenly emerged. "Okay." Yesha also couldn't figure out what was going on. He had never thought that Lao Ban's reaction would be like this, like a naive little girl who was not afraid of the scary monster. Lao Ban tentatively stroked Yesha's fur, feeling that the wolf hair was extremely supple and comfortable to the touch. Then, she reached out her hands, trying to embrace Yesha, but unfortunately, the werewolf's body was too tall and strong, and his waist was too big to be hugged. "Then you hug me." Lao Ban had no choice but to give up, and coquettishly asked Yesha to embrace her. Yesha, seeing that his girlfriend was not afraid, became bolder and hugged Lao Ban with his arms. Now, the tall and slim Lao Ban was directly buried in the werewolf's embrace, unable to be seen at all due to their huge size difference. Beauty and the Beast, it's quite romantic. Yuningli chuckled as she enjoyed the embrace of her furry lover, Sandu Yi, while staring at his ferocious appearance. With a thought, Sandu returned to human form and was about to say something to his girlfriend when she pressed her lips against his, intertwining in an ambiguous embrace. When their lips parted, both of their faces were tinted with a hint of ambiguity, yet they dared not look at each other. "Let's eat first. I'm a bit hungry." Sandu cleared his throat, breaking the tension as he got up to retrieve the takeout from the table. "Okay." Yuning, who was usually bold, spoke softly and gently in response. It wasn't until they started eating that the atmosphere between them returned to normal. "So, you were the one who saved me at the mall, right?" Yuning asked. Sandu hadn't told her the details of the mall incident, only that a slayer had come to their rescue. She wasn't ignorant of the news, and she knew that countless people had died in the mall incident. It didn't make sense that they had escaped unharmed. "Yeah, it was me who saved you." Sandu was a bit surprised that Yuning had guessed it. "Did something happen?" "Since we came back from there, you've been super kind to me." After all, Sandu's biggest secret had been revealed, and Yuning wanted to know what had happened that day. "Nothing much, just a lesson in life and death, reminding me to cherish the people in front of me." Sandu smiled easily and reached out to remove a grain of rice from the corner of Yuning's mouth. "Okay, tell me when you're ready." Yuning was a strong career woman, but she was also very proactive in pursuing her emotions. She wouldn't force Sandu to do anything he didn't want to do. This was her way of showing him respect and also showing respect for their relationship. "Thank you, boss." Sandu laughed, relieved to have finally shared his secret. He reverted back to the carefree boy he used to be. "Why are you still calling me boss?" Yuning playfully glared at her younger boyfriend, pretending to be unhappy. "Then can I call you Yuning's sister?" Sandu was still a straight man at heart. "That's too old, I'm only 4 years older than you." Yuning was still not satisfied and emphasized her age. "Then how about, darling?" Sandu burst into laughter, teasing his girlfriend. Too childish. Women are hard to please, and Yuning was no exception. She was quite picky. "Then how about, my dear?" Sandu laughed heartily, and Yuning could no longer hold on to her anger. Her lips curled upwards, and she affectionately threw herself into Sandu's arms. "So, you're saying that there's something strange about that barbecue restaurant, and there might be something suspicious going on behind the scenes?" After listening to Yisha's description, Lu Yuning summarized their conversation. The two of them had spent the entire afternoon together, until it was time for dinner when Yisha remembered to bring up the topic of the restaurant. "Yes, because I feel very sensitive right now, and I can sense that something is off with the meat there," Yisha explained while preparing dinner. "That's terrifying. That restaurant is so popular, who knows how many people have eaten their meat." Lu Yuning thought it was scary that something as insidious as this could happen in human food. "Let's cook our own food from now on, for safety and hygiene. I'll cook delicious meals for you every day," Yisha suggested, feeling shaken by the thought. "Okay. Thank you, honey." Lu Yuning happily leaned in and kissed her boyfriend's cheek. "You see, women are like this, saying one thing but meaning another. They might mock their partner's childish behavior on the surface, but deep down they find it endearing." "Oh, by the way. Sweetheart, can you bring me the microphone from the computer?" Yisha asked while cutting vegetables. "Sure." Lu Yuning was in a good mood and hopped out of the kitchen like a little girl. When Lu Yuning brought the mysterious microphone back, Yisha put down her knife and yelled at it, "Xiao Mai, don't play dead on me. I didn't have time to deal with you a few days ago, but it's time for you to start working now." Lu Yuning was completely confused. Who was Yisha talking to? "Okay." Suddenly, a familiar and terrifying voice echoed in Lu Yuning's mind. The beautiful owner was stunned for a moment, then shouted and threw the microphone, diving into Yisha's arms. It was the voice of the mysterious broadcast, the first paranormal event Lu Yuning had experienced, and it had left a deep impression on her, leaving her with a psychological shadow. She wasn't afraid of the werewolf paranormal event because it was Yi Sha, but she would definitely be afraid of other paranormal events. Don't be afraid, it's okay. This isn't the paranormal broadcast. Yi Sha caught the microphone out of the air and comforted her girlfriend, explaining the situation. So, this is a paranormal object? An object that has developed its own independent consciousness? Lu Yuning wasn't very scared after hearing the explanation. After all, she was in her boyfriend's arms, which was the safest place in her mind. Yes, it has a magical power, so I want to give it to you, so that you also have the ability to protect yourself. Yi Sha showed Lu Yuning the paranormal microphone. Okay. I believe you. I'll definitely use it to protect myself. Lu Yuning didn't ask any more questions, just bravely took the paranormal microphone from Yi Sha. Hello, could you speak in a different voice? I feel a bit scared listening to this. Lu Yuning surprisingly asked the microphone. The anomalous microphone was speechless, feeling like it had stumbled upon a pair of foolish lovers. Okay. I changed it. After all, Yi Sha was staring at it, so the anomalous microphone couldn't afford not to obey. It changed its voice to that of a little girl, which sounded much more pleasant to the ears. Lu Yuning was no longer afraid and excitedly picked up the microphone, chatting with it in a low voice. Yi Sha saw that his girlfriend no longer needed him to explain anything, so he turned around and started cooking. When the dinner was ready, Yi Sha was startled by the situation in the living room. Dense black mist was swirling around Lu Yuning's body, similar to when she was controlled by the anomaly. However, this time, she was excited and waving at Yi Sha to come over. How do you feel? Yi Sha walked toward Lu Yuning and asked. Baby, it's amazing. Lu Yuning controlled the black mist and lifted a heavy coffee table, letting it float in the air. Do I look creepy now? Of course not, you're just using the power of the microphone. Yi Sha chuckled and patted her head. Okay, well, it looks pretty strong. Lu Yuning was easily satisfied. After she put down the coffee table using the black mist, she hugged Yi Sha. I hope I won't be a burden to you. Don't say that. Let's eat. Yi Sha pinched Lu Yuning's pretty face and pulled her hand, leading her to the dining table. Late at night, the two just-showered lovers felt a bit shy and reserved. They had been living together for almost a month, but only now did they dare to take their relationship to the next level. It's my first time. Lu Yuning revealed her situation. She had left home to escape from an arranged marriage, and she couldn't find a man she liked, which is why she had waited until now to give herself to Yi Sha. I will take responsibility. Yi Sha said seriously, leaning closer to her. After all, he was a man. Okay, I trust you. Lu Yuning embraced Yi Sha's neck, responding to his passionate kiss. That night, passion blossomed in their bedroom, and their bodies and souls intertwined, never wanting to be separated from each other again. Yeshua woke up at 11 in the morning, and spent some time in the bathroom before hanging his sheets out on the balcony to dry. It was hard to get the bloodstains out, and he had to scrub them for a while to get them clean. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Yeshua was taken aback and thought that his secret might have been discovered, so he quickly walked to the door. It was Officer Wang Yanjin and several other police officers who had come to inquire about the shopping mall incident. One of the survivors from the last incident had revealed the words spoken in the strange broadcast at the time, and Yeshua's name had come up in the investigation of the slasher and the police. Wang Yanjin had volunteered to investigate Yeshua, as they had become friends after meeting at the gym during the incident and often chatted online and played games together. Please come in, Yeshua invited the officers inside. He then turned to his girlfriend and said, Yunxin, we have guests. Alright, I'll go change my clothes, said Yunxin, who then tidied up the coffee table before going into the bedroom wrapped in a blanket. Yeshua had the officers sit at the dining table, since there was no sofa. Wang Yanjin reassured Yeshua that they were only there to collect information and that he need not be nervous. Mr. Yeshua, were you and your girlfriend at the mall shopping on the day of the incident with your boss? Wang Yanjin asked, and his colleagues began taking notes. Yeshua nodded. He couldn't hide that fact. May I ask how you managed to escape the danger and leave them all? Wang Yanjin's question made Yeshua's heart skip a beat. He would have to rely on his acting skills to answer this one. At that time, my girlfriend and I had already walked out of the mall's main entrance. When we turned around, we saw that the black mist had sealed the doors. Yeshua pretended to try and recall the situation. As you know, one officer, we had experienced something strange the day before the mall incident, so we were very scared and quickly ran back home. We didn't dare go out again. Yeshua wasn't making this up. There had been reports of the strange occurrences on the internet. Any place enveloped by the eerie black mist would cause electronic devices to malfunction, just like the surveillance equipment in the mall. As long as there was no surveillance footage, he could make up whatever story he wanted, and the chances of being found out were slim. As for how the strange broadcast could be transmitted through the speakers, that was simply the power of the eerie microphone. Oh, I see, nodded Wang Yanjin. The surveillance footage from the nearby streets and shopping mall had been mysteriously wiped on the day of the incident, making investigation and evidence collection extremely difficult. Wang Yanjin was impressed by Yisha's luck and decided to be upfront with him. Mr. Yi, to be honest, the surviving victims of the incident mentioned the name Yisha repeatedly. Our department analyzed the possible visitor list and thought it might be related to you. What? You're not kidding me, are you? Yisha's face turned fearful, resembling that of an ordinary resident. The entity has already been eliminated. It may have been the same one as the one from the gym incident, reassured Wang Yanjin. That's a relief, I'm glad, sighed Yisha, visibly relieved. Just then, Lu Yunan walked over with a tray of tea and served it to the officers. As the investigation concluded, Wang Yanjin and Yisha relaxed and made their way to the window. Yisha, you're amazing. The last time we met, you were just the boss, and now you're the girlfriend? Wang Yanjin said with a hint of envy. How did Yisha get so lucky? Just going with the flow. After all, we've been living together for so long, chuckled Yisha before teasing. What have you been up to lately? Not playing games anymore? Games? If I can get enough sleep, that'd be great. Wang Yanjin pointed to his dark circles. After the entity appeared, crime rates in the city have gone up. We can't beat the entity, so how can we beat the criminals? That's why we're working overtime like crazy. Sounds tough. Why don't you stay for lunch? Yisha wanted to increase their friendship and find out more information. Can't. I have to report back to the department. I'm a takeout kind of guy. Wang Yanjin patted Yisha's shoulder and laughed, bidding farewell to his colleagues and preparing to leave. Take care. Come to my place for dinner next time when you're off duty, Yisha said as he saw the officers off. I definitely will. Wang Yanjin replied loudly as he got into the police car. Yisha watched the car drive away, squinting in the bright sun. He couldn't help but feel a sense of crisis. He couldn't be complacent and needed to actively grow stronger. Returning home, Lu Yuning was focused on watching the news on TV while Yisha sat down beside her. The news was reporting on a death case where an elderly person who lived alone had died in their own home. The deceased was a well-known professor at a university in Jianyang City, with many students, so the case was quite influential. Sweetheart, do you know how this old man died? Lu Yuning looked at her phone, her eyes widening in disbelief. She had just used her connections to find out the truth, which shocked her. What happened? Was it something strange? Yisha hugged his girlfriend and curiously looked at the conversation on her phone. That old man was paralyzed from the waist down and lived with his son. On the day of the incident, the son was not at home, and the old man actually took a knife and ate his own paralyzed legs. He bled too much and died. Lu Yuning said, shivering with goosebumps, and hid in her boyfriend's arms. Did he not have any mental illness? Yisha asked, following up, as he had not thought of something so terrifying. He shouldn't have any. He was a professor and still had to give online classes to his students every day, so his mental state should be normal. Lu Yuning looked at her phone again and described the situation to Yisha. Well then, it seems we can't just indulge in the current situation. We need to get stronger quickly. Yisha looked at his girlfriend and said seriously, strange things are everywhere, and this world has become weird. We need strength to be safe. We must actively hunt down the strange. Okay, I'll follow your lead. Lu Yuning nodded in agreement, but suddenly her face turned red again. I haven't been indulging in anything, it's just that you kept teasing me, last night. Who was the one who kept shouting, I want, I want? Yisha burst into laughter. Ah. Don't learn to talk like me. Lu Yuning blushed, pouting, and playfully punched Yisha's chest. Lu Yakan smiled sweetly at the live broadcast camera, waving goodbye to the audience, before finally breathing a sigh of relief when the blinking lights disappeared. She didn't know what was going on, but her boss, Zhu Yan, had not come to the studio to host the show recently, and had asked Lu Yakan to stand in. He had even given her a raise, making it seem like he wanted to promote her. But Lu Yakan wasn't stupid. She knew there was something odd about the situation, as besides her boss, even the other assistants didn't show up anymore. It was only her and a new intern who clocked in every day. Due to her appearance, which was on par with Zhu Yan's, and her more sincere and genuine demeanor, her live broadcast room had gained many followers and profits had significantly increased. She was also receiving a decent percentage of the earnings. When it came to money, even if she felt something strange, she had to grit her teeth and continue working hard, as she still had to support her parents. Lu Yakan's work was showing progress, and her love life was also taking off. Zhang Sun had officially started pursuing her, and their relationship was gradually getting more serious. They would go out for dinner and outings every week. Of course, Lu Yakan didn't immediately agree, as their family backgrounds were vastly different and she couldn't easily trust Zhang Sun. She had heard plenty of stories about being played with by wealthy men when she was in school. Yakan, I'm off work now, an intern said to Lu Yakan, who smiled and said goodbye while packing up her things. Suddenly, a figure came walking towards the studio door. The person was dressed in a conservative manner, even though it was hot outside. Xiao Lu, you haven't finished work yet? It was actually the boss, Zhu Yan. Lu Yakan looked up in surprise, and was taken aback. Zhu Yan, who used to have a slender figure, had gained a lot of weight. Her pretty almond-shaped face was nowhere to be seen, replaced by chubby cheeks. She was dressed conservatively, perhaps to avoid being recognized. What happened? Lu Yakan was puzzled, wondering if the boss had taken the wrong medication and caused her body to change. Xiao Lu, please leave work now. I have something to do and will lock the door myself. Zhu Yan said before entering her office. Okay, goodbye, boss. Lu Yakan didn't dare stay any longer, and picked up her bag to leave. Walking on the street, Lu Yakan couldn't help but recall Zhu Yan's current appearance. She couldn't understand how a person could gain so much weight in just a few days. It didn't make sense from a human physiological standpoint. In the office, Zhu Yan was eating chocolate and searching for her bank cards in the safe. Her mouth was never idle, finishing the chocolate and then moving on to eating biscuits, which she used to give to her employees as snacks. She used to avoid eating them because they were high in calories. But now, eating was even more important to her than what she was doing, and as she searched, she couldn't help but eat more and more snacks. She stuffed 3 biscuits into her mouth at a time, and her chewing sounds were strange and terrifying. Finally, when she finished all the snacks, she mumbled to herself and started to search for the safe. I need to find a lot of money, to buy a lot of meat.